on my home computer, so that's why I like it.
Okay, we're live now. Just welcome to today's work session for March 1st, 2018. Can we stand for the pledge? I know. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty, so we'll start today's discussion. The first discussion will be Conacare, the final site plan approval. So we'll start with that.
Okay.
Chris, do you wanna come up for that?
Still different, I'm sure. You should have put a tree branch and taped it.
Alrighty, so we approved for the clearing, at our last meeting, so I guess the clearing, the fence is going up.
Starting today, they're putting up they're delineating the area that's being cleared, 18-acre area. They will then install a SWIP, interior fence to comply with the SWIP measures. That's been approved by the town. And then they will request an inspection by the planning staff. After the inspection, we'll be requesting a tree clearing permit to be conducted inside the area, inside the fenced area.
Okay, very good.
Who's the general contractor?
The general contractor, I wanna say EB Construction is the general contractor.
Just curious.
Yeah.
I was just curious as to whether or not they were building the job union.
That'll come up at the IDA, I'm not doing the IDA application, but I
Got it.
don't know off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
Okay, I was just curious.
I think it is open, but they have used a lot of union labor in the past, so hopefully they'll continue to
The
do it
condition
this time.
usually cannot be that they use union, the condition can only be that they pay prevailing
Prevailing
wage.
Right, and I believe that they
I
are
was gonna
getting
say it's not
some, they
required.
are getting some money, I believe that they get IDA money, it does fall under prevailing wage at that point.
They do,
Right?
well,
Is
they
that how
don't
it
get
works?
money from the IDA, they get
The
benefits.
benefits, if they get
so
taxes,
it's-
that benefits, then
they get-
it's prevailing wage.
That they abate, they get sales tax exemption,
Right.
mortgage tax exemption, and real property tax
And some relief,
abatement.
yes.
That goes over whatever period of time they approve, somewhere between 10 and 20 years is usually the ask. I don't know what the specifics are here.
I don't know
And what has
either,
been negotiated with the IDA.
I remember
Thank
it was 5 to 10 years, now it's 10 to 20.
Well, the minimum,
Some
under
areas are
state
30.
law, the standard, what they call the uniform tax exemption, UTEP, it's a policy, uniform tax exemption policy is usually 10 years. And it's just whatever the starting point is, and then phasing out the abatement over the 10-year period.
Right.
So you could start at 50% and go to 100, phase
Yeah, there's
it
the
out.
standard and then the enhanced, that's what we had talked about at the meeting.
And if they go above the uniform, they have to send out what's called a deviation notice that goes to all the taxing jurisdictions, so, including the school district.
Okay.
Sounds complicated, but once you do it a few times,
So, a lot of the information from the preliminary approval is repeated in the final approval. I made the changes that would make it a final approval. Just wanna hit the highlights of things that are new,
Okay.
or weren't included in the preliminary. One of the things is I included on page 6, starting at the bottom, some whereases about the determination of no hazard to air navigation, which I looked up online based upon the number provided by the applicant. And it was based upon the height of 33 feet above ground level for the structure height. And the highest height of the building is actually 35 foot 3 inches, which exceeds the structure height listed in the FAA paperwork. So I was going back and forth with Cameron Engineering and asking a couple of questions and what have you. So I finally decided to just contact the person who was listed on the FAA paperwork, and I discussed it with her, and she said the highest height of the structure is most important to them, or one of the things that are most important to them. So she said the project we discussed on the phone was not submitted for the actual highest height of the structure. Therefore, the determination that was issued is valid only up to the height indicated on it, and a new case must be filed. So I put a whereas about that in here, and I put a condition later in the resolution saying before you get a building permit, that you need the new paperwork from the FAA.
So, yeah, go ahead.
On the highest height issue, there is 2 levels of height under FAA, and I think she must have spoken to you about
Right,
this.
one was
There's
about
something
the-
within the jurisdiction of the runway.
And that, is that, you know, Larry, there's still a lot of feedback. No, no. So my question is, is it how close it is to the runway that determines
This is
where?
what she said.
There's two jurisdictional
Studies should always
questions.
be requested for, at a minimum, the closest point of the proposed permanent or temporary structure to the nearest runway, and for the highest height found anywhere on a structure, even if it is not that tall at the coordinates that have been entered into the case. So they say, while the engineering firm's opinion is helpful, they don't always have the knowledge and blah, blah, blah. So it seems to me we just need some clarification, new paperwork.
Okay.
I don't think it should be.
I'm curious as to, those runways are not regulated by the FAA currently, correct?
They are, in the sense
But the
that
fact
we
that they're
receive,
open,
well, we receive, you still have to file with them, you still have to tell them that you have it, you still have to receive your safety and security check, from them, compliance, even if it's a private or a public runway, whether in use or not in use.
Interesting.
you're thinking of the funding issue where we don't have to maintain the runways to their standards if we don't accept their funding.
Right. But any site plan that comes in along the runway,
For
we
safety
forward
reasons.
to the FAA. I didn't know that we did that for.
Well, I didn't forward it, the applicant actually,
We made
we
application.
told them that they have to check with the FAA,
Right,
and
we
they
did
made
a Form
application.
7460, which is notice to the FAA that we intend to build on airport property. So then you have to maintain certain distances and heights from the runway, and it's on a slope, so it's 1 foot of height for every 7 foot of ground. And then when you get beyond the 35 feet of height, which is the distance from the runway, which is 245 feet from the runway, then you go into a different jurisdictional requirement, which allows you a higher height. It's an angled
Right, but
slope.
I just
whether
don't
or not they
recall,
pierce
like,
that transitional slope, they
bringing
still
buildings
need the
flat
approval
or-
from the FAA.
To
for
say
the
that,
highest height.
so that they're in compliance, or,
Right.
But you don't see that being a problem because of the distance.
Yes, because at the point where, so I think the confusion is, the engineer only provided, once we get to that 245 feet, we're gonna be below the 35 foot of height.
Right.
But they also want the highest height of any point of the building
That's on the property.
on the property.
Okay.
And I think the height is 56 is the regulated height, is that what you're saying in this?
Well, what I'm saying is the building itself is proposed to be 35 foot 3 inches,
Right.
and the paperwork says 33 feet for the structure
I
height.
believe
So-
what he's referring to, and this might just be some failure to communicate, as I always say, from quoting Luke, that's what we have here.
Is
Failure to communicate.
so you think that's within the 200 and something feet?
I think that's at the edge, I will clarify with Rich,
What-
with
what-
Cameron Engineering, that's at the
What
edge of the,
FAA said was basically they wanna know the highest height of the
Right.
building anywhere on the site.
The information needs to be provided regardless.
It's gotta be updated,
Okay,
that was my understanding.
okay.
Other than that, one of the conditions of the preliminary site plan was that, I thought that the overflow structure for the natural detention basin would cause more disturbance to the natural area, and that be shown on the plan, but I got a letter from Cameron Engineering saying that would be included in the disturbed berm area, so it wasn't necessary to revise that.
Just what page, we're on 8 now?
I'm sorry, I'm at the bottom of 7 going
Okay.
on to 8. So any other comments in condition 5 of the preliminary site plan approval about revisions to the plan were corrected? The preliminary site plan approval talked about getting a demolition permit for the dilapidated building at the end of the runway, but that was also covered in the clearing permit resolution. So we received the final site plan fee, the town attorney's office did finish review of the title report and didn't find anything that would prohibit or restrict what the site plan proposes. And then if you skip to, most of this is just boilerplate conditions that we put in every final site plan approval resolution. One of the things I put in new was, I'm getting to it. Page 10, number 17. There are buildings on the north side of the proposed entry roadway. I believe they were used by Skydive. They're vacant. There's really no use for them, so originally we had put in a covenant that they have to be maintained so they don't become dilapidated. And then at some point there was talk about removing them. So my understanding is they don't propose to remove them now.
We would like to remove them. We did an inventory of those two buildings, we being the applicant, I was not there. But they say they cannot be salvaged. They would like to remove them. And they're within the non-disturbance area, but we're not gonna deal with that now.
Right, so all I did was put in a condition that if they are to be removed in the future, they have to get a demolition permit, and we would want clarification from the DEC whether it's in their non-disturbance area.
Okay, how big are these buildings?
They're small, like,
They're like storage sheds.
Okay,
They were,
Maybe a little
at
bit
one time, I
larger
think
than
they were used originally, one of them was used by Skydive Long Island before they built their new building.
Yeah, that was where they did the videos to teach you how to hold on and jump out.
Safety videos, yeah.
You felt really safe
Well,
watching that safety
it was
video in that
such a-
building.
You have
Yeah.
that.
I was there, it was too
Really
cloudy
got
that
well
day.
put through them over there, yeah.
That building made you feel really safe that you
Yeah.
were.
Yeah, exactly.
if you go to page 11, number 27, I did add a condition that any development in the future in the area labeled area of potential development will require the submittal of a separate site plan application for review and approval.
and just out of curiosity, because they have the permit to take down the trees in those two, is there that they need to be in full compliance with that prior to being issued and being here for their site plan? Just to make sure that there's, if extra trees were taken down or anything, is there any repercussions with this? If they don't comply with what they already have?
This is just an area they showed south of what they're developing, and they termed it area of a potential future development. They don't have anything planned at this point, but
No,
Not
this
just-
is a separate condition.
Paragraph
that-
28, the next paragraph, is what you're
Okay.
talking, and it's there.
Okay,
I'm talking about number 27.
No, I know.
I got ahead of myself looking at 28.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
But
I
that's your
wasn't
question,
following.
you're actually,
Yeah.
you're anticipating the next,
Yeah.
very next condition.
Sorry.
Right, basically, number 28 just says all conditions of that resolution to clear have to be complied with.
Okay.
And then, number 29, one of the things, we've already talked to Chris about is, a covenant to the satisfaction of the town attorney indicating they're aware of the issues being next to a runway.
Okay.
Noise, et cetera, so Chris will work that out with,
I met with Bob this morning and discussed that issue as well as the $100,000 performance security that was posted.
And that gets attached to this?
Well, it'll be a covenant,
Okay.
so they'll have to file a covenant, with the county clerk.
Can we attach that covenant to this, make it part of the,
Well, it hasn't been worked out yet.
You're gonna approve the resolution before the covenant's filed.
but the covenants will be determined before with the resolution?
The covenants will have to be before you sign the Mylar.
Right.
They're in here, they're in the resolution, what the covenants have to be, so.
Well, I don't think they're
There'll be
worked out
two.
yet, that's
There'll
what I'm
be
saying,
two.
they haven't done them yet?
You'll
so-
see the language for that before Tuesday.
That's what I wanna know, they have not worked out for the.
Right, you'll see before
This is
Tuesday.
about the, that they're building next to an airstrip, and so that's gonna be a covenant that's attached, but right now, they just said has been recorded as per condition number 2.
Oh,
But
I
they
thought they
haven't
were doing
done
that
the,
next.
fully worked out the language
Yeah,
for it,
we'll have
so I'm
done
just
before
saying, is that language gonna be worked out
Yeah, we'll have that
before we
resolution
approve this?
before Tuesday.
Let me, can I speak to that for just a
Yeah.
moment? We'll probably be doing two covenants on this,
Right.
on this approval. The first covenant will be the covenant that we file right after this gets approved and signed, and we get the certified copy back from the town clerk. We will prepare a covenant that lists all of these conditions of approval in one covenant. There will be then a second covenant that we'll have to record before we can get the Mylar signed by you. That will have to be recorded, and a certified copy will have to be filed with the town clerk for the, next door to a runway. It's really a runway noise covenant, that we know, we're aware that we're next to a runway, we acknowledge that we noise.
But I guess my point is, if we're approving to go through, approve this application, right? And it's conditioned on these covenants, I just wanna know that the language for the covenant has been, I know you don't file them right away, but I'd like to know that the language for the covenant, especially for the runway, has been,
Well, there
Worked
are
out.
several
the
covenants in
aviation.
here that say they have to be to the satisfaction of the town attorney. So it's unlikely that he's gonna get,
But, for example,
the
the one
runway
regarding,
one isn't done.
you'll see that before Tuesday.
but
That's what I wanna
there's
know.
also a
Yes.
covenant about maintaining those buildings, there's also covenants about various things which,
All in here,
right, they're all in here that,
except the runway,
Right, and you'll see that before
Which
Tuesday.
is what I wanna see before.
okay, but now, the runway certification, is that something that we've done on all site plans that have come across in the park, or just this one, cause I've never
No,
seen
the only
that.
one that I'm
this is
aware
the
of,
closest one.
the only one that I'm aware of is one that's up on the Delalio Sod Farm property on the other side of Edwards Avenue, and the only reason I'm aware of it is when we acquired it for Esquar's, development, it was in the title report. So we're gonna do something very similar to that one. It basically says,
Yeah, cause I don't think Riverhead Building Supply, but I guess seeing as you're gonna have
I don't know
voluntary
if Riverhead
guests that
Building
are gonna be
Supply,
coming here,
I don't know if Riverhead
I don't think
Building
they
Supply
did.
was required.
but,
to do that.
But it might be a certain number of feet, it's 236
I think
feet
the
from any
issue
of the building, from
Did
the.
come up with the Riverhead Building Supply,
Did you do a covenant on that one?
but I don't think we did a covenant.
no. So, anyway, I'm just curious, because I know with the Riverhead Raceway, like Glenwood Village, like, there's a covenant that all the, occupants, the people that buy homes in there, that they have to sign saying that they're next to next to a raceway.
Right.
But, anyway, I guess it's
We
just
might wanna
being,
give some thought to making it a requirement of within a certain distance from the runway, or,
well, that's what I'm saying, if you're gonna, it's, in order not to be accused of being arbitrary and capricious, we may want to set a policy that says that anybody that's building within 500 feet of the runway, that this covenant would be required. And get the language hammered out so that it can be part of the resolutions in the future.
Yeah.
Because I think this is the first one that we're doing a covenant on in the park that has anything to do with a covenant, that you're close to the runway.
We did that for all the residential subdivisions around, Kibesky Airport, including East Quogue and Quogue, that far out, and
For residential, but this is a voluntary research facility, but in case, I mean, and
Well, I think that
hopefully it's never gonna become residential, cause that's a covenant in here too, right?
The reason it might be different is that the other uses were all industrial, and this
Right.
one is a research facility, so.
Started the
Isn't that
conversation, so we
Yeah.
can keep it going.
Yep.
Okay,
and then on page 12, if you go to letter I, there were some minor things that, needed to be corrected on the Mylar plan and the paper plans we'll get that
We
match
haven't
it.
done any Mylars yet, but we're gonna submit finals.
Well, you're at the stage where you could, get to the Mylar, so
Right.
this is, whether you wanna do something before that is up to you. But as far as, what needs to be changed, there were some shaded areas, that represent, proposed improvements on the existing conditions and removals plan, so those need to be taken off. There,
can I, finish this one and then I'll go back to H.
okay. Sorry, lost my train of
Yeah.
thought. On page
Shaded
C 30, there was a utility easement chart with meets and bounds, which was taken off by mistake, so that needs to be,
Put back on.
refilled. Basically, there's a walking trail that they're proposing, and it goes through the fence and to the southern part of the site. That's the area of potential development in the future. It's just a mown trail, and it loops back through the fence. But also where it begins, the top of the berm, the maintenance path begins. So, just want a little clarification for people so they don't go the wrong way, because that's eventually gets you to the taxiway and the runway. So, a sign, no access, maintenance only shall be shown at the beginning of the maintenance path.
Should there be a gate or some,
Well, that's coming.
okay.
Okay.
You're raising it.
A sign, nature trail, to direct people to the nature trail. And then, a sign, stop, active taxiway and runway ahead at the northern end of the maintenance path. as well as a gate or barrier to the satisfaction of the planning department. So we can work on that.
There was a fence proposed, and you,
Well, this goes through the fence.
Right.
The nature trail goes through the fence, and the maintenance path on top of the berm is outside of the fence, that fences in everything else. So, just something to kind of prevent people
A
from.
little extra precaution, so you know you're wandering in the wrong direction.
proceed at your own risk.
And then everything else is pretty much, was included in the preliminary approval. Until you get to 30, which is what we already discussed, no building permit shall issue until written confirmation from the FAA that the actual proposed maximum building height of 35 foot 3 inches is no hazard to air navigation.
Okay, so going back to H,
I'm sorry,
where it says an easement agreement for the 15-foot wide easement for water lines for Janway to the site and within the site to the satisfaction of the council to the water district shall be filed with the Suffolk County clerk. I would like to see that filed before the Mylars are signed. Is that a
Well,
condition?
And I would just change the word file to recorded, by the way, we record easement.
Right, that's
Yeah.
part of the signature of the Mylar set, if you look up under
Okay,
29.
okay.
So everything under 29 is something that has to be done prior to signature of the Mylar.
Perfect.
And then on 31, those are just things that, prior to the issuance of a CO. One of the things that I think we added, or that I added clarification to, was about dedication of the roadways. My understanding was we wanted dedication of the Calverton Camelot 2 subdivision roads to the town before a CO.
They'll be more than happy to give it to us.
But that the road, actual road to the site from Janway, that would be a private roadway.
Janway is continued, will be private, right?
That's my understanding, yes.
Janway.
Not
No,
Janway,
not
the road
Janway.
from
Not
Janway.
Not Janway, the driveway from Janway.
Right.
Correct, right.
Yeah, seeing as this is, I believe, the last lot, or one of the last lots in the development of Calverton Camelot, I think that it's very important to get these roads taken over by the town prior to this.
We're working on that now. In fact, the plans for the ponding condition have been,
On David Court.
we got comments back. Now, this was up by the intersection of
25.
25 and Berman Boulevard. Plans were submitted, comments received back from the town's consulting engineer, plans revised, resubmitted to the consulting engineer.
Yeah, you also might wanna put like the little stakes in the ground too when you're pulling in off of 25, because it seems like you guys keep putting topsoil on the west side of Berman Boulevard coming in, and people just keep parking there or turning around in there, and it's just creating a condition.
I'm not aware of it, but that might be within the state right of way, but
No, I think it's when you get in, right?
Yeah.
When you get in,
Oh,
right,
actually,
you know where the signs are,
Yeah.
where people turn around there,
Oh, okay, on the east side?
on the west
On the west side.
On the west side, because I know there's a little turn in on the
They just
east
put a
side.
I
bunch
think
of
people
topsoil,
just
and it's got a little,
pull over there.
yeah,
It's kind of like, it's not the road per se, it's the dirt
yeah,
portion, if they use the shoulder,
Oh,
it's
so
one of
maybe
the
we should put up a curbing or
conditions.
something that
Something.
blocks people from.
something.
maybe the trucks go
Yeah.
turning in, it's a tight turn maybe.
Or they just pull over and get directions once they get in as to where to go, but it's just, there's topsoil and you guys keep topsoiling it and seeding it, but it's
All right,
just,
maybe as part of the project where we do the, fix the ponding condition, there
Yep.
will be some.
something to think about.
The one question I have on this this refers to the CO, I believe we said also temporary? That
would-
nothing will be issued even temporary? A temporary CO until
but
this
we-
is completed?
This is all inclusive.
But this is for the permanent, but we said, where does it,
Any,
how is that distinguished? So if anybody comes and looks at this and we're not all here,
Well-
that they know even temporary?
In the past, we have issued temporary COs.
but we're not going to do.
But that's what I'm saying, we're not doing it this time, so where is that noted?
Why wouldn't we do that?
We're not entering a temporary CO, and that's a condition, and the applicant is well
Not
aware
until the
that
roads are accepted.
nothing will be until the roads are accepted.
Until the roads are accepted, but
Correct.
the other, because,
So we can split that out and say no temporary.
No
CO.
temporary C of O until those roads are done.
until the roads are dedicated.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Cause there
I
are other
can make that
conditions on
change.
site that they may not be able to do,
That-
you know, on site, but.
I think
guess
this,
that-
the roads
The
have,
roads.
has been a complicated issue, so
We'll
we're
split
just
it out.
trying to, address that.
Yeah,
So only D would be,
Excellent.
So I would split out D
Yep.
and put that before in a separate, make that 31, and 31 would become 32.
Or unless you just wanted to add on to D, that all roads within the Calverton Camelot subdivision are dedicated to the town, no temporary CO or shall be issued until the roads are dedicated.
But it's under the
Just add
section talking about
D.
the issuance of a CO, so you might want to, because these
Right.
other issues.
Under 31D, where it says issuance of a CO, the issuance of a certificate is contingent upon but not limited to the following.
Right.
And then,
We can clear it with Bob Kazakevich so
Yeah.
that the wording is appropriate, and we'll get it to everybody back before Friday afternoon.
Okay, so Bob will take care of that?
Yes.
All right, we'll work with Bob.
So if anybody has any questions,
Just some minor stuff that needs to be,
I do not have anything else, thank you. Anybody have questions?
no, I don't have any questions.
If I ever get it built, I need a room.
Yeah.
Going crazy.
Going?
Yeah, right.
Going, going, gone.
On the rebound, yeah. Jeff Murphy Memorial Room.
All right, so,
Right, thank
very
you.
good, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're up here again,
Yep.
Jeff.
And I'll get a revised resolution to you before. As always.
Thank you.
I'll get a
Very
revised
thorough.
resolution to you before Tuesday.
All right, thank you,
Very
Karen.
thorough.
you're welcome.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Welcome.
I want the signs to look very rustic, though. Nature trail and nice looking stuff.
I thought you liked the ones that New York State put up along the highways.
Yeah, there's a few extra of those if you need them.
Yeah, I'm sure they're gonna give us a deal on them.
Yeah.
I'm like-
Sure.
I'm just looking for this resolution, so hang on one second.
You know?
Exterior lighting.
And I apologize to the press, I did not bring extra copies of this most exciting law.
We can email you the, copies, maybe in there.
It's riveting.
Jeff, you said you were changing since yesterday?
No.
Exterior lighting? Okay.
Oh, this is our exterior lighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is exciting, Jeff. Come
It is.
on. Woo-hoo.
I just have to find it, hang on a second.
Exterior lighting code revision, what do you want to revise? Are we waiting for them?
Laura, you wanna take my copy, cause I've got,
Actually, I'm just trying to look for mine because I did write on it.
Did you send that to us?
resolution.
Oh, it's in the resolutions.
Yeah, it's
What
towards the back. You know what, we haven't been, which we need to do is, we haven't been numbering the resolutions up at the top. I think we need to, because it makes it very difficult to find.
You don't have,
You know, WS, you know,
I
how
have
you
it,
do-
WS1, which one?
I don't have it on mine, maybe I printed mine early before the
you
WS
might have
came
done
around.
it, yeah, it's way down.
That's all right, yeah, you know what, I will take it for now and then I'll,
Is there WS number on that?
They're on here.
What is the number?
I don't have enough on it.
Diane, or what is the number on this
Here,
one?
I'll slip you a 5-note.
Oh, you want yours to go rise to the top?
You don't have the number either.
I
If you'd like, we
didn't,
can-
Well, you can explain it to us, I don't know.
Yeah, it's the, what's on the bottom. So,
All right, this is a code that came at the request of, and a result of planning board applications. Right now, there are two things that we're changing in this code. The most substantive one is a single line that says, all LED lighting shall not exceed 3,000 degree Kelvin. That has nothing to do with the brightness of what you see outside, it has to do with the color of the light. 4,000 degrees is a bright white, like the color of this paper. 3,000 degree is a warmer light, so it's not as offensive as and glaring as a 4,000 degree.
Okay.
The lighting levels stay the same. It just has to do with the color of what's coming out of the bulb. So we're making that now a law. Well, all the other changes that are made are strictly formatting. Right now, the code jumps around from section to section, and it doesn't create a fluid code that a person can read. So the code committee directed me to sequentially make it easy to read for the staff and for applicants. And that's the only other change that we made.
all right, I have it, that's more confusing.
What's that?
More confusing, I have a couple questions on it.
Okay.
First of all, you know, one other thing, and I don't know if it comes in the chapter before this or in the top, but just definitions. So what luminaires are and a couple of the other, there's a couple of definitions that I find, are not here. maybe make it easier for, a little bit more in layman's terms for people to read. And then you have, B1 on the first page,
Uh-huh.
where you have, this is confusing to me, you have B1 here about the exterior lighting.
Uh-huh.
And then in C, you have, these are exempt,
Yep.
exempt exterior lighting, the following types of exterior lighting are exempt from provisions of this section. Is it just section C, or or the whole code?
No, just from this section, from this lighting section, the exempt, because you can put holiday lights up. that's
Okay,
all.
but then look at D, because then you're exempting that does not exceed 1800 luminans, is that how you say it, luminans? And
Lumens.
is, lumens,
Mhm.
and is not rated to exceed 100 watts, right? So you put that as an exemption, but in 2, you put conditions on it. So what is it exempt from?
Exempt is that you can put holiday lights up, and holiday lights are,
But these are motion sensor activated, right?
mm-hmm,
So you're exempting this from being motion sensor activated, is that what?
yeah, so if you put Christmas tree lights up, if you
But
want
these
light
aren't,
up.
but these aren't Christmas, this is 2, this is C2, so C1 is holiday lights,
Uh-huh,
so that's separate.
Right.
And then C2 is motion sensor activated.
right. And you still can't exceed the 1800 lumens.
But what is it you're,
This is what's in the code today.
but how is it, but if this is all referring to holiday lights, then it's not set up correctly.
No,
Two
no,
is
no,
not.
Only one is holiday.
C1 is holiday lights,
And then
C2
two-
is motion sensor lights.
Right.
So
So
motion
the motion
sensors,
sensors
when you're
are
approaching a
exempt?
door at night on
Right.
a site,
So
then
they're exempt from, everything in this whole section? What are they exempt from? Are they exempt from the shielding that's in section 2 of B?
For example, uplighting of flags, that's not dark sky compliant. This town has said they don't mind having, if you're illuminating American flag at night, it can be an uplighting. Uplighting is not dark sky compliant, but the town has said, that's okay. You wanna illuminate the American flag, that's fine.
and like the motion detectors, when you're going up to a doorway at night, it says that the light has to go off within 5 minutes of going on. And it can't encroach on any public property.
Right, but what I'm saying is in section, and this is why I'm finding confusion. In section B2, right?
Mhm.
It says that all exterior lights that emit this or less, regardless of the number of lamps, shall use fully shielded fixtures, right? So that pertains to, that's not, you're not exempting that in B, in CD, correct?
And CD,
What are we exempting them from? Do they have to shield or not shield?
Motion sensors.
That's a motion
Are
sensor.
not exempt.
Right.
I mean, motion sensors
Are
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 exempt.
exempt.
As
But are
long
they
as-
exempt, so they're exempt from everything in this code?
only from the 1800, only motion 100, except for lumen.
But what I'm saying, they're exempt from every single section in this code, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, they're exempt from everything.
Right, provided
Yep.
that they meet A, B, C, and D.
So if you have a motion censored light,
And it doesn't exceed 1800
doesn't,
lumens.
there's nothing in this code, you can just put that up and nothing else in this code applies to it.
Correct, it's because it's motion censored, it'll only stay on.
So the
it'll operate.
height, the height that it can be, so you can put it as a spotlight off of your house, 35 feet up, and let it shine into somebody else's house.
No, because that's like trespass, that wouldn't.
Right, but so
This
they're not exempt from everything, right?
But the lighting code is for commercial, it's
Right.
not for residential.
No, this is
This is everything.
everything.
But
That's what I'm saying,
where
it's
does
just,
it say that it's
that's why I'm saying it's kind of confusing to me.
when people build houses, we don't tell them what type of fixtures they can put on the outside of their houses.
But what I'm
Correct.
saying is,
We don't.
we've exempt this type of lighting, the way it's written here. The following types of
Yeah.
exterior lighting are exempt from the provisions of this section,
Mhm.
right? And then we're saying so motion sensor activated, number D is exempt from everything
Right,
in this code.
provided that they are fully shielded and located in
That's
such
what I'm
manners
saying.
to prevent
Are
glare and
they-
lighting onto other properties and
But you're
public right
saying
of
they
way,
could be,
provided
your
that-
neighbor's
But
light could
you-
be shining
you have
right
to
in
look
your
at
house.
the
That's what I'm
section.
saying, what
Yeah,
are they
which
exempt
actually
You
from?
have to, you have to look at the, C2 in its entirety, they should be fully shielded. Loaded such manner to prevent glare lighting onto other properties, so they can't do that, they have to be
Right.
fully shielded, they
Yeah.
can't have light trespass. It can only go on and off within a 5-minute period. Can't be triggered by off-site activities.
Right.
It can't exceed 800 lumens. If you meet all those conditions,
But where are you?
that's C2.
Keep going.
C2, okay.
So you have to still comply with all that, as long as it's motion censored. I'm not sure what you're actually exempt from, because you still have to comply with those sections.
But you're exempt, it seems that you're exempting those lights. If they're less than, if they're that side, you've exempted them, you've not put them into the section.
But provided, you get that big word, provided.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure what we're exempting them from, because they still have to comply with all the other.
That's what I'm
Right,
saying, it's
they
very
basically
confusing
are.
what they have to do. So it's kind of, I'm not,
Tweak the wording here.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, there may be, it's confusing. So if you're reading this and you're trying to put up the lights,
Then when you put up a motion sensor, you can't have it going onto anybody else's property, you can't have it going into a public right of way, it has to be shielded, it has to be
Can't be
no
set
more than
off from
1,800
somebody else's property.
lumens.
Right.
And not rated to exceed 100 watts, and
You could
it
just,
can't be activated by somebody walking on their own property.
yeah, I think you could just strike this whole section out and then you'd be fine.
yeah, that's what I think.
But then, somebody can put up a motion sensor that's pointing at somebody
Right.
else's property. So.
No, but that doesn't,
Unless you wanna take it down to just one thing, that it can't be shining on someone else's property.
Yeah, I don't think you
That's the
wanna,
main
I don't
concern.
think,
You wanna keep
yeah.
it at 1,800,
yeah, I
and
think-
you wanna make sure that it's not more than 100
I think it's very
watts.
restrictive, but it doesn't hurt anybody, it's,
okay, I just find it confusing the way it's written
Then
for
it
people
goes
to
over to 5
understand.
minutes,
I
so
think
it's
it could
not
maybe be a
permanently.
little clearer. That was really my point to it, is that it's confusing as to,
Well, you have to understand lawyers, they do that on purpose.
right, but then when somebody puts their lights up, you
Actually,
want to put them,
I think
them to be able to
Jordan
read this and
Barnett
figure out
wrote
how to
this.
put their light up.
Back in 2005, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, they just worked on this.
And Barbara.
And then just out of like just the prohibited and prohibited, you don't wanna put those sections together? I know you changed some of it around, but, like, just put, like, the requirements together and then the prohibited and exemptions together?
this came out of code committee, and this is, because Brad Hammond is the one that interprets this, he's happy with this, so if this makes it clearer for him.
And the people in code committee read it and felt it was easy to understand?
They actually made it, I had it differently organized, and they changed it to this.
I won't find this confusing.
Well, Brad's
Maybe
coming
that's me,
over
reading laws
in a
around
little
this.
while, you want him to clarify something?
Yeah,
And Brad's
because
coming
there's
over
some
to-
things in here that I think need to stay.
I think Brad's coming over to.
We're-
Yeah, I
we-
mean,
we-
because
we
I
have-
think I think
We
it's a
haven't
lot.
taken anything out, we just, restructured them.
But you know what it is, it's hard to, the way you restructured it, it's like what you, the strikeouts versus where you put it back in the section are not aligned, so it's hard to kind of follow what's taken out and what's left in.
This is what the code committee came up with as a consensus.
Where in the code is prohibited exterior lighting if we're striking all of D? And replacing it with placement and height of luminaires?
Yeah, it came to like D
D
or
to-
E or something, it got moved around.
Um,
The
I have not
prohibited
taken
you're
it
at, the prohibited, now it's H.
Correct.
So they just moved it.
That's all we did.
It's the same exact thing, it's just moved
That is correct.
to a different section.
That is correct.
Okay.
Just call for a public hearing on this, right?
That's all we're doing.
I know, but we wanna make it right to
Oh,
go
I
to
know,
public
I
hearings
just
and you
wanna
just
make sure
adopt
that
it.
Well, do you wanna put it off to the next time, you doesn't wanna get a tweet?
You know what I think it would be nice to see, I guess, a clean copy of it without the strikeouts to see how it reads. It's hard to read the way it
Trying
is.
to compare what it
Yeah,
was.
going
Yeah,
back
but-
and forth, and then this way you could just compare, it might be easier to
I like to see the strikeouts, cause
No,
I like to
no,
know
no.
if they're taken out and if
Well,
they've
you know.
replaced it somewhere else, or they're just getting rid of it altogether.
No, but what I'm saying is we have the strikeouts here, so we have that, but to see what a clean copy would look like as the new one would look, just to see if it's easy to read. Cause it's hard to kinda read going back and forth.
I'm at the board's pleasure, whatever you'd like to do.
Yeah, so if we have a clean copy, then we can compare it,
Yeah.
and it reads easier.
Any other questions?
You can always leave the code the way it is and just add the 3,000 degree Kelvin.
Well, I was gonna tell you, what preempted this whole rewrite? Was it just the fact that they wanted to make sure that the LEDs were kept under a certain?
The 3,000 degree came as a result of seeing
Lighting,
the results
right.
of, and I think everybody agrees with that.
And then what was the other revisions for?
Brad and the rest of the committee felt that it was not an easy read, that they felt that this version
Oh.
was an easier read than the way it currently exists in the code.
Okay.
Well, that's why maybe with a clean copy, it may look,
And Brad's the
Easier,
one that
more
has to.
concise.
Yeah.
Well, he's the one that has to,
Enforce it and interpret it and.
I get it.
Where it says in the lighting code where it said that all lighting fixtures had to be brought up to code by December of 2017?
that's that's the dark sky.
That's dark sky,
That starts, that's 2013.
No, that was December 31st of this
It's
year.
already passed.
Yeah, right, it's done.
No, I know, but we're not
Doesn't pass
enforcing
yet.
it, is what I'm saying, the dark skies.
And the supervisor is working with staff and Bob Kozakevich to draft letters to all the business owners saying
Yeah, they gotta come into compliance, right?
that would come to compliance.
As they change things over. I know there was a,
Well, there's no provision in there that says you have to wait till you change things over, that's been the practice so far.
Unfortunately, we have a
So
lot of
that's-
businesses that are
that's
changing over to
different.
LEDs, unfortunately, they're using the 4,000 degree.
oh, is that what it is?
And, for example, Riverhead Building Supply did it, and we got a complaint from a neighbor, and that's 4,000
On
degree.
Pulaski Street?
Yeah. So that's why I wanna get the 3,000 degree in there as soon as possible, so that when people do the switch over, they know that they're supposed to use
What
3,000 degree and not 4,000 degree.
All right, so if we could just get a clean copy of this, later today or tomorrow,
I'll get to you.
and then everyone could just take a look at it and see if they're still okay with it. If that is the only change in it and it's just formatting, then everybody could just let us know if they're okay with it. If not, we can always pull it till the next work session.
They don't call it dark sky.
It's just sort of the lighting.
Yeah, just part of this, yeah.
That's
We don't call it dark sky.
Okay, that's just informally what we're
Yeah.
calling it.
All right.
Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice outfit.
And then Jody, you wanted to do just a court and parking on town property?
Yes. If you could, please, and pass it down.
Oh, yeah.
I think, are you gonna do this?
Rose, pass it down. And I have some here for the press. John Cole's extra aerials.
I'll get you Bob right now.
Also, you have extra aerials?
Are there any other
What
areas?
is this waste of trees here?
Those are all aerials, so if you wanna take one and give Jim one, and then I can give the rest to the press.
Oh, I thought they were a packet.
Can I have one first?
Thank you. Okay, so this is something that I had worked on last year, and the previous administration was trying to put forth to get the Justice Court to go to the Armory. And with the expense of that, and with the Justice Court still being a condition that needs to be addressed, I was working on this request for information from private developers to come and build on town property. We had also had a proposal from somebody that wanted to come in and buy the property from the town and build apartments on it and retail on the first floor. And I liked that idea, but the source of funding that they were seeking was being taken by the George A. Green project downtown, and then also the Conifer project downtown. So the funding source wasn't there for them, and this,
And what was, funding source was that?
the low-income housing tax credits. So they were going to tap into the low-income housing tax credits to build
But I think that's a lottery from the state, right?
apartments. It's a federally funded program, so the federal government gives 2 tax credits per capita of each state, and then HUD figures out where these low-income housing tax credits go, and it's usually where the greatest need for affordable housing is within the area or the state. So they,
It's a lottery, other people can, cause I think Conifer got some too.
yeah, well, you apply to the HUD and say, we wanna build a project in downtown Riverhead, and if HUD feels that there's a great need for affordable housing in Riverhead based on the, you know, the
Right, if you qualify, if you
Suffolk
get
County
it.
and, you know, then they might give the credits there, but they
Right.
allocate a certain number of credits.
Yeah, I
It's a
think it's like
qualified
150
allocation
or
plan
something, yeah.
that they have to submit to HUD in order to get,
So they didn't get it.
well, the tax credits were already used for various projects throughout the state by the time that they had applied.
I
So,
gotcha, okay.
so now, what I'm proposing is that we put out a request for information. There are several properties around here. This parking lot is in an urban renewal area. It's right across from the Supreme Court buildings. My idea was, and you can read through the RFI, is to have a master developer come in to maintain the number of parking spaces that we have now. Perhaps we could do a justice court on the first floor and retail on all 4 corners. They would maintain the parking that we have now and add additional parking for any other uses that are being proposed in the building. So for the justice court, for the
Fine.
retail,
I'm so confused right now.
why?
Riverhead Justice Court.
Are you looking at the aerial to see
Yeah.
where the property is?
Yeah.
Where the parking lot is? It's Railroad, Cedar, Court, and Osborne. So they would build a justice court on the first floor, build parking on the second floor to equate to the number of spaces we have there now, build parking on the third floor, and then on the fourth and fifth, if they wanna build, you know, parking for their uses, which might be the retail on the first floor, maybe apartments on the sixth and seventh, or offices on the sixth and seventh, whatever the developer comes in that he thinks would be a good fit for this property. It also says in the RFI for the master developer that they can request if they wanted to go higher with buildings. Right now, it's based on the zoning, which is 5 stories, but if they wanted to go higher, I think that DC1 zoning would be more appropriate for this site if we did decide to do that.
It's not DC one now, is it?
It's DC3, but I think DC1 might be more appropriate, and it's been a mission of mine since I've been elected to try and clean up the Polish town area and to kind of expand the downtown to, put more uses by the Justice Court, or by the Supreme Court. And it might be, if we were offering a long-term lease for the Justice Court, so that any developer coming in knows that the town would be leasing the space from them for the Justice Court, so they'd have an automatic tenant.
But they're purchasing
Nope,
town-owned
the
property.
town would still own it, so we would give them a long-term lease, like a 99-year lease. And then they would do
And
the
lease
justice,
back, and then lease back from them?
and then lease back from them just for the Justice Court.
Not
And
the
then they
police,
would
not the
build-
police station,
What?
not the police.
No, just Justice Court. And then they would build parking on the second, third, and fourth, and then whatever uses they wanted on the fifth and sixth. As long as they maintained the number of spots we have now and provided as many spots as we need for the new Justice Court, for the retail, and for any offices or apartments that they were proposing within the building.
And how many of these do we have to provide for the court?
Well, we had to provide a total of 600, but we have them scattered throughout the area, so.
How many are coming from this spot?
I can count them up, but they would have to keep the same amount of spots that we have now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I thought there were like 200 or something, right, Jim, in this area?
I don't know, I have it in my office.
So they'd have to give 200 spots right off the bat, no charge, they'd have to construct 200 spots.
Yep, and that would be right on the second floor, so that would
You're
be,
adding to that.
and then we would do third, they would have to provide the parking on the third, fourth, and fifth for the Justice
So
Court.
this doesn't work unless you're up 7 stories.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not a bad location for 7 stories if you were gonna look at it. But I wanted to give you all the RFI, so you can read through the RFI, and if there's changes in there, it says that if there was a request for a zone change in order to go up higher, in order to provide the number of parking spots that they need, but really, if you were to go up higher, in this location, there's really no residential in the immediate vicinity, so, and it's right next to the railroad station. I think it would really clean up that area,
And
right by
then
the railroad museum.
And the current Justice Court Police Station would be renovated then?
Well, that would be, leave police there, so they
Right.
could take over the whole
They'd have to
building.
do some
Yep.
renovations too, as
Yep.
well.
I'm not sure how I feel about moving the Justice Court, but I understand where you're going with it.
I don't know that somebody's gonna wanna build a whole justice court, which we know is, you know, the value of that, and provide 200 parking spaces. That's
If they get a long-term lease for a great number, to the town, and they're providing the parking space, and they're building us a justice court, and they're giving us a great lease price, that's what an RFI is. We put it out to master developers respond and say, okay, Town of Riverhead, we're gonna build this for you on your property, we're gonna pay you $1 a year for 50 years, but we'll build your justice court for you at no cost. You can lease it back from us at $10 a square foot, we'll build the amount of parking that you have now, we'll increase the amount of parking for whatever uses we're proposing in the building, including the justice court, and
But
they build it.
They have no retail.
Well, they have retail on all four corners of the justice court, on the main
You can
floor.
have a justice court with police cars coming in and out and retail on the four corners?
Yeah,
At least
It's a
at least
2-acre site.
At least a donut shop would be nice.
and a
Donuts.
place where you can grab a paper and a cup of coffee, you know, you might get a Dunkin' Donuts or something that would go in there.
There you go.
There you go. It would have to be designed so where the police could securely bring prisoners to the site and get them into the justice court. So those designs,
I'm not in favor of separating the police and the justice court. And I don't think, you're gonna get a fight from the justices as well.
well, I did speak to the justices about it, I went in there and, you know, Alan Smith just wants to go to the armory and that's it, there really doesn't seem to be any other alternative that he'll consider. And Lori was like, I don't care where we go, as long as we are not here, because something needs to be done right away.
It is a dire situation.
Yep.
It is.
So,
I think we agree.
I think putting out an RFI is not gonna hurt anything, and we might get some good ideas from developers. It's a 2-acre site, so even if on the first floor you wanted to do police and justice court, you could probably accommodate that. It's more than what they have next door now.
I'll read this through. I
Yeah.
think we can
Yeah, I'll
come
read
back for comment on it.
Well, it's worth a shot. I don't know who's
I
gonna
also
build
think it's prime
I
real
don't know who's
estate
gonna
for
build
the
$100
town. I
million
don't know if that's
complex with
exactly
Bowery.
where you wanna put your justice court as prime real estate,
There's no
you know,
law that allows it.
as we revitalize.
What do you mean about prime real estate? You can't eliminate the parking here
I understand that.
with
I
close to
understand
the
that.
Supreme Court, cause that's what we
Well,
promised
plus,
in our
there might be
contract
some
with the county.
logistics
I
on
know,
that
I'll
property.
read it over.
The town used urban rule, I think, for that
Yeah,
parking lot. So
Yeah.
I think there might be some restrictions what go there as well.
Well, we're all gonna
Think
look at
so.
it.
Yeah. Good. All right,
Thank you for your work. Anyway, it looks pretty good. Other Camrys.
and then we'll move over to the sign code enforcement. Eric,
Did you say shine code?
Sign,
Oh,
sign.
okay, just check. No shine code. We already had the shine
We already
code.
did that with the
That was
exterior
Jefferson.
lighting.
Good morning. Jefferson did the shine code.
So, John asked me to bring copies of our sign code, which is lengthy, so I did that and I also made a
Right up
summary
there
of
with
it.
the lighting code.
Yeah. If you wanna light a sign, forget it.
Right. Where's my rivet pen? I want my rivet. Where had you get rid of it?
Thank you.
Your father. Illuminated sign right there.
You don't need that, you know all this, right?
What
you
is
can
it?
illuminate signs as long as it's down.
No, I'm kidding, I said between the sign code and the lighting code, I said if you wanna light
Two
a sign up,
Americana
you'd
signs.
be reading for a month.
Embellishments.
Yeah, you're not gonna find that in my.
No.
summary.
Excuse me. Show me where it says about the guy we're gonna have to enforce it.
Well, that's all part of this conversation.
That's what I meant to
Working
say.
on that.
That's just a
That's why
summary.
this is up.
Okay, you got too much time anymore.
The time has come,
Yes.
right?
Okay. So, I know that we're looking to sort of step up what we're doing in terms of signs.
Correct.
That would be a substantial step up from, I mean, what's happened at least in the time that I've been here since last June, don't think I've had any sign tickets in justice court. My understanding is we used to have someone who only dealt with signs.
Did a good job.
And, yeah, and, I mean, obviously, I think if you really wanna get a handle on that, that's something that would have to be considered.
Larry's saying they can't hear you.
Okay.
Speak up there, Speak up, young
Okay,
man.
sorry. Okay, so if we really wanna step up the sign code enforcement, I think we would need an individual who's sort of just doing that. Rich, Nicole, and George are dealing with the, you know, hundreds of complaints that come in on a monthly basis, on property maintenance, rentals, all that. So, to really get a firm handle on this, I would think we would need another person. And what we could do with that other person is, in weather emergencies, he or she could be reassigned to, you know, write the snow tickets. Or they could have some sort of flex built in, if we're gonna be serious about enforcing dark skies. Right now, our code enforcement doesn't really work past sundown without overtime. This is an additional project that, you know, whoever we were gonna bring in could focus on.
I think a couple of things, I know we've been talking about this quite a bit. One of the, what we thought of doing is just because there is not somebody somebody budgeted within this year's budget to do this, but I think it's a necessary thing that we do. So one of the ideas and that we've been kicking around is to put out this media notice that we will be going through the signs. And we'd like to kind of do that as a newsletter to the businesses, where we're letting them know you have 30 days to come into compliance. We'll provide them with the information. I'd like to be able to provide them with some sort of, and I don't know, Jeff, if this would come through your department, some sort of ability to call and ask questions. If they, you know, I have this sign, I think I'm in compliance, I have 30 days, how do I check? Or, you know, they could check with this, but I'd like to be able to give them some sort of way to be able to ask questions, even if it's in the last week, and it may be the sign person. So what I would like to do with the signs after sending out that notice is, even if we did, this year to start on a temporary basis, where we would hire somebody part-time to go out and do it. And the question would be whether, you know, during the week would be most appropriate, a weekend person. You know, I guess the other question we had, and as we were going through this, is once we do, issue somebody a ticket from this, how do we then follow up with that? Whether the ticket would then get issued to, the person that is renting or leasing a space, conducting their business there, whether it would be to the owner of the whole, if they own an area, a large shopping area, do the tickets go to both? And then how do we enforce that effectively going through?
Well, I think we should do it the same way that we do the fire alarms, when the fire alarms go off, because there is a register with the police department for all commercial businesses that are supposed to have both the owner and the tenant with current information. So I think that would be a good place to start, and I think it should go to both, the owner and the tenant, because if there's a violation notice, it's going to the owner of the property. And then the owner can, in the future, put in his leases that all signs must be in compliance, so that, and if any fines are paid, it would be paid by the tenant. So.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, kind of what we came up with to go to both.
Right.
But I think.
We could go to both, but I mean, if it's a restaurant downtown, and the restaurant's leasing space from the building owner, and it's the restaurant sign that's not in compliance, I think probably the most rational thing to do would just be to serve the restaurant.
Yeah, but how do you? So what if the restaurant closes up and they move out and then?
The restaurant is the one that's in violation of the code.
Right, but the property owner doesn't know that his tenant is in violation of town code.
We put the property owner on notice too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, send it to both of them?
Yeah, we could send it to both of them, and whoever shows up gives.
Send to everybody, man, you want it rectified.
And so, and the other thing,
So
for
that people eat that,
violation, if you're in violation, I think a couple of some of the other people have brought up, is there a way to identify the signs with either a number or a code that they've received their permit, for the sign? Because I think there's a couple issues, whether the sign that actually went up is the sign that was permitted, and then the other thing, are there additional signs that do not have any permit to be on a site?
Well, right now, you know, unless it's one of the no permit required signs under the sign, provision statute, if they don't have a placard, the code says it's a placard issued by the building department that has their permit number on it. If they don't have that, that's an easy way for them to tell that, yeah, I'm in violation.
I mean, the business would have that in their possession.
Well,
Yes,
when you
and
get
it's
a
supposed to be.
certificate of
But
compliance.
but
so
it's
you
supposed
come-
to be on the sign.
Right,
That's-
so you come in, you take out a building permit for the sign, then when you get your certificate of compliance, when the electrical inspector's gone out and he's made sure everything's okay, the building department's gone out, the setbacks are okay, everything's good, then you should be getting a certificate of compliance for that sign. And with the certificate of compliance should be the placard, so that an inspector can drive by, see the placard. If they have a question on it, they can call into the building department and say, hey, you know, but they're not getting the placard until they're in compliance.
Right, and
That-
are most
until
of them
it's posting the placard actually on the, going back and doing that? And
None of
posting
them
it
are
on
doing
their signs, and
I
is
don't
that a violation if they don't?
They're supposed to.
Yes.
So that
Because
would,
it's supposed to be apparent to any building inspector, code enforcement officer going by that, yes, they do have this, the sign is permitted.
so we would want, that would be part of our notification within the 30 days that you need to get your placard on your sign. Because will that be a violation if they don't have that on there?
It should be,
It,
cause it's in the
we
code.
could make it a violation, yeah.
So what you might wanna say is that if you have a current certificate of compliance for your sign, then you should have, you know, the 2-inch numbers
Right.
put on the bottom of the sign on the roadside so that driving by, it's visible to someone driving by. So that then, that, you know, they can go to the hardware store and for 20 cents each buy the little numbers and put it on their sign now.
How much are they?
I-
How much?
20 cents, something like that.
Okay.
But I
And
just,
to
I
peel off
just
the
wanna
back.
make sure that as, if we have somebody outgoing doing, that there's a sort of a standardization, what our level of, latitude would be as the tickets are given. I mean, are we going down to the fact that, you know, if you don't have a placard on your sign, even if you have a permit for your sign, you're in, you know, you pretty much have a sign that meets everything except for the fact that you didn't have, you know, have evidence that you have the certificate on the sign, will that be part of our original,
Yeah,
Um,
it's a violation of the
Yeah,
code.
we should,
Okay,
because the
that's
code
what-
does say a placard shall be attached to the lower right-hand corner, so there's not really
There's
any
no gray
room
area.
for, right,
Very
so
good.
that's a violation.
just
But
wanna
I
make
think
sure
if
that we're
you-
all on the same
Yeah.
page
And
as
if
we
you
move
just
forward.
include in the letter, that if you did take out a permit and you have a certificate of compliance for your sign, then, you know, just put the numbers on the lower right-hand corner as per the code. Cause you're gonna be sending the code to everybody when you're sending them the letter, telling them to bring their signs into compliance, right?
Correct?
Okay.
Yes.
And let it be known that we're cracking down on these signs.
Well, that's,
The
the
sign
office, the
pollution?
letters, the information will become, it'll come, we've been working on this for a while, so we have a newsletter that will be going out to everybody. It will give the notice, we'll let, through the office know, and we would like to have, the part of the reason for all of this is with the board, to allow somebody to be, part-time, somebody to come in part-time for a 2-month period, right after this, all goes out. Maybe what we should do is have them come in a week before, so that there are questions, they can answer those questions.
Maybe a lot of
Can I-
restaurants
can I
will
make a
start
recommendation?
yucking up their sandwich signs again.
Can I make a recommendation that we dissect the town into, you know, DC 1, DC 3, so that the building department is not getting bombarded with every business owner in the town trying
Right.
to get their signs compliant within 30 days. If you did one section of the town every 30 days, then, you know, after the 30-day cycle is done, then the violation notices go out, and then you're starting with sending out the letters to a new section of
Well,
town
they're
saying.
already in violation, this is just a courtesy, the 30-day letter is a courtesy, they're already in violation.
I
We
know,
can
but if
go
you
out-
send it out to every business in the town, the building department is gonna be inundated, and they're not gonna get any of their inspections done and get businesses open that are trying to get open, cause it's gonna be all hands-on trying to deal with these signs, in my opinion.
50 years of signs record, so
Ex-
if you're gonna start enacting the placard thing, that means that someone has to go in the basement, try to find the sign, the proof that the sign is legal, which is not always the case. I mean, you know, we've had floods, we've had fires, we've had.
Yeah, we have another one too.
I think-
So I think we have a handle on what's non-conforming, but trying oh, so the sign guy could go in and, but if you have a sign guy, then all of our records are they're on the IPS, all of our records are in the basement. I don't see why we have to have that extra, all right, go get these numbers for your.
Sign guy is gonna know the legislation. He's gonna be able to look at a sign without a placard and know whether that sign fits the code or not. So I think you're really throwing a lot more into this than has to be.
I think that,
Then why do we have that in the code?
I think it's important, and I think that that's why you just tell people, you know what, if you have a certificate of compliance for the sign, put the numbers on there. You can get it at the local hardware store, they're two by two squares.
That's a violation in itself, right? So the onus is not on us.
The sign code doesn't even say, there's not one provision that says it's illegal to erect a sign without a permit. It's buried within the 301 zoning. So you could extrapolate, go to the end of zoning and find the violation of the fee section, but within the sign, there's not one, because I've tried to write the ticket before, and I'm like, oh, I have nothing to write.
So where is,
Brad,
so
you
that's,
should
yeah.
come to the
yeah,
table
just-
so we can hear you up for the next,
So in
I didn't know it was on there.
in 301,
Sorry.
247,
Didn't go to hair and makeup.
301, 246, yeah, like all
That's
the
just the
signs.
definition, but in the 301, so we're missing that,
In Article 48, if I read that correctly upside down, there's no, normally when you're in a chapter or an article, it says, by the way, it's illegal to do this or not get a permit or to erect a sign. And that's what happened. I caught a guy who doesn't get permits and I go to write him a ticket and I have nothing to write him. Instead, I issue the violations to the property owner and they sometimes they do something about it, sometimes they don't.
Why can't you
I
just
think
write
this
them
was-
to
this
301, 247?
this was-
Town code violation.
but this was a question that we did have before, and so you, writing the ticket for the person who's actually whose sign it is versus who owns the property itself, you're not finding that that's written in here.
I think it would be
Should be
great
clearer.
if there was some section in there that says, yeah, it says signs require a permit, and they give you the process. But there's also not the part that says it's illegal to erect a sign without a permit, or illegal to erect a sign without approvals,
But if
or.
it says all signs have to have permits, then doesn't that cover it?
Not all signs need.
So where do you think that would be covered?
I mean, we could put something in there just to make it,
Clearer?
completely, I don't know, like a flashing sign at the very beginning that says any sign not, that doesn't, that doesn't possess a permit as,
You don't have to
set
come up with the
forth
word,
here
but,
and after,
So I think
shall be a violation.
okay, I think that would be,
And I think
if that tightens it up, I think that's what that's, if we're, looking to do this, I think that we should be, as clear as possible.
And I think we also need to look at the fee for the signs, cause $100 a sign is
We're not
taking,
up to that yet.
building, okay, okay.
It says only one primary sign shall be permitted.
Right, so why can't you
I
write
think that's pretty
tickets on
good.
this, Brad? It's clear to
You know,
me.
Give an
Secondary
give an
maybe.
example.
In a lot of chapters or sections there's a criminality portion. It shall be,
Violation.
fine or violation, and it doesn't, I don't think it has that. In the global 301 zoning chapter, you can write that, but then that's kind of specific about its, site plan violations, et cetera. Nothing
So you think
specific.
there should be one specific for violation for signs?
But this is a site plan violation by not getting a building permit.
But I'll tell you, this was unclear, and we did talk about it before, and Bob, we had talked about it with you before, and we were having this confusion in the interpretation of it, who was ultimately responsible, for the signs, who can you ultimately ticket for this, and it was a little vague, left open to interpretation, let's put it that way. So maybe to have some language in there that interpretive part gets removed, so that it's very clear whether you're looking at it, whether Brad's going out with it, whether somebody from code enforcement is going out, very clear to be able to, and if you're looking and you're putting a sign up and you wanna know if you're in violation, that you know that you're in violation and what the consequences
Well,
are.
I mean, look, if you do that,
But
you
Brad's
just
going
look,
out
you
and stuff.
just look at Article 48 here, all right? And now, I, as an attorney, when I'm looking at a statute, and I wanna know what the ramifications are for a violation, if I'm not finding it here in this article, then I expand and I look, well, where is it in the chapter? And then I go down to, you know, the very last article, or, I think it's an article, in 301, and it's, you know, administration and enforcement, penalties for offenses, 301-320. All violations under this chapter are $1,000. I mean, to me, you know, I think that's clear enough. But if we want, and I mean, the problem is if we start putting a separate penalties section in here, we're gonna need to do that with all of them.
But I don't think it was the penalty portion of it that you were talking about. Was it the penalty portion or the fact that,
Yeah, I'm not,
I know you're not, I don't wanna put you on the spot
I
here.
would've liked to.
Yeah,
But cause we're going back a couple of
Yeah.
years, the last time I went to
Yeah.
write a ticket, I'm looking for,
Yeah.
for the section where it says it's unlawful to do this. I didn't like that it didn't it wasn't evident to me at the time that
and some of this should be, you know, if you know, I know a lot of this should be easy enough to read, if you're not an attorney, to understand. So
Right.
maybe there's just a sentence or a language that's put in there to, so that someone knows clearly, with one sentence in here, they're in violation. The fine doesn't have to be in here, the fine can go.
Non-compliance with any of the foregoing provisions
Will
shall be
result-
deemed a violation, penalties for which are set forth at 301-320.
Correct, and that just clears everything,
Okay.
up, that I think there's no question, at that point. And then, so then that goes into, what are the penalties with the signs?
Penalties are fine not exceeding $1,000. Any violation under the zoning chapter is also subject to civil penalties. $350 for the first day, $500 for the second day, $1,000 for the third day, and then up to, you know, up to a max of $15,000 within any 15-day period.
So they can get fined every single day if they're not coming in.
We can allege a violation having occurred starting on March 6th and ending on March 21st, and that would be 15 days. If it persists after that, each 15-day period after that separate cause of action, also subject to a maximum of $15,000. You know, which you're gonna wanna have, why we would need someone else, a person with knowledge saying, yes, I saw that this was in violation for every day of this month, and, you know, signs an affidavit to that effect, in order to establish that.
Okay. And as far as having somebody available, if somebody wants to, I mean, do you guys feel, and I know Jeff, this is you too, if somebody has a permit, do we need to provide them with anything other than the fact that we're gonna be doing this? Do we need to provide them with a resource to, check on their signs? Because everybody should be in compliance, or they should come down and get in compliance, right, to file something. I mean, is that really what we just want, if you feel that you're, you know, not in compliance, that the onus is on them to go through the signs and to come down and apply?
I mean, I would think so. I think a lot of people aren't gonna do anything until they get caught.
I
You know,
agree.
which is just sort of,
Well,
you know, it's a reality, right?
yeah,
Right.
when you're gonna walk down Main Street and take every
And then-
sandwich sign outside
Yeah,
the
and then they'll
restaurants.
come to court and say, well, I
bring them
didn't
inside,
know.
they don't belong.
Say it's not an excuse.
That's it.
All right,
Good luck with that.
so
We
you
had
will
also
take,
drafted the, sandwich boards
Not allowed.
a while ago for downtown,
Not
for
allowed.
restaurants and stuff. I know, we had drafted to add to this, Jim, to
I hope
include
so,
sandwich boards.
because
are sandwich boards on this? I didn't get that.
They're
sandwich boards not
prohibited.
allowed except for drive-throughs.
So, we were talking about it, but then we were having,
Portable
we were
size
hung up
capable of
because,
standing without support or attachment, okay.
but we were hung up with, the sidewalks and whether or not the sidewalk would be ADA compliant if they put a sandwich board out there and other things.
technically you're putting it on DOT right away. I mean, you're putting it on property that doesn't belong to you, so.
All right, so everybody, we're comfortable with moving ahead with this. Eric, if you could just, write something up
Sure.
to, do this. I will also find out about, having someone, part-time, at least for a 60-day period to start, and then we can, evaluate it after the 60-day period, whether it's something that we can continue to fund.
Where are the fees, and where are we getting the money to hire this somebody on a part-time basis?
We do have the money on a part-time basis from some fines that we've collected already for this year, to cover that, and we'll put a financial impact statement with that. And then as far as the fines for this is what Eric just went through, what the penalties are for not having the sign in compliance
Right, so the fines, you're saying from fines that we already collected,
for this year.
so is that in an accounts receivable line somewhere, an accounting for fines, that we estimate the amount of money that we're gonna get in fines each year, and
It will be with the
have we
financial,
met that?
it will be with the financial impact statement, because I don't know which account Bill has it in, to come out.
Okay, well, I just wanna make sure that we've reached, so if we said we were gonna collect $500,000 this year in fines, and we've only collected 20,000 to date, I don't think it's a good idea to take it out of that fine account until we've reached what
These are
we
additional
expect to be our
fines that we haven't
receivables.
collected in previous years.
I know, but, okay,
Well,
I'll vote for
This is why we'll do the financial impact statement for it.
Right,
That's the purpose of it.
Yeah, but it's not an expense account, it's a receivable account that you're pulling from, and I don't know that we've received all that money as of yet.
I understand that, that's why we'll do a financial impact statement with it, and if the resolution comes through and you're not happy with the way it's being figured out, then you can question it on that. I don't have the account numbers right now where it would come out of.
So,
But there should be money in the budget available for it, that money will be encumbered prior to agreeing to the resolution.
okay, so are you going to be putting out a notice advertising for this position?
Will there be a notice advertising for this position? It will follow the same as personnel measures as we always do.
Okay,
Certainly it's well needed. I mean, the signs in Riverhead are out of control.
Absolutely,
And I think
absolutely.
and our code enforcement cannot keep up with them. We really, this was a position that we previously had.
and they got laid off because we were operating at a deficit, so, along with 13 other people, I think, so. If we have the money now to hire somebody and
It's
we're,
a part-time position for 60
Right.
days, and will be evaluated after the 60 days.
And
It's a
problem.
temporary position.
Some
to
areas,
see-
it's a bigger problem
I mean,
than
this
others.
is,
I agree with
you know,
you.
it
We
may
need
be
to get a
60
handle
days
on
we
it.
hit all
I'm
the
just-
signs, and maybe
you know,
60 days we don't.
I'm just saying, we got 20,000 here for the highway superintendent, we got this money for this part-time person, I just don't know where we're getting the money from, that's all.
That's why we're doing
So-
the financial impact statements before we do these things
No,
for
but
them.
I think,
Financial impact statement is when you're,
yeah, but Jody, you know what, I think the visual impacts, I'm not worried about a part-time sign guy, I'm really not. I mean, financially, I'm not. I think,
It's under $3,000.
right, I don't think it's enough that we shouldn't look at this seriously about getting at least it under control. I think that we should go out and do more about performance than penalty at this point, because it's been unchecked for a few years, and maybe people just didn't know, so. I don't know whether it's gonna be a quick money grab, it's gonna be more, we want people to come into compliance, so.
That is the goal,
But that
that
needs
is
to
the
be
goal
done,
of it.
it needs to be done, and
and,
that's it. I mean, we'll have to reevaluate it as time goes. If it starts to be a cost center that we can't afford, then we'll have to change gears, that's all.
and as far as, you know, notifying all businesses within the town, I mean, I really think that we need to consider just breaking it out and sending out, instead of just massively sending it out to every business throughout the town, cause I really think that the building department is gonna get inundated.
Can we, if it's just a 60-day, can we put on the placard issue?
Yes,
Yeah,
that, I think you brought up a good point with that.
Yeah.
no, I want everything.
There's some research involved in that,
I don't, you don't,
it's gonna take more than 60 days.
those placards should come from us, those numbers should come from us, cause that's saying that you put up the sign that was permitted for, approved, and this is actuality, we've seen it this day, here's your number, now put it on.
So that,
If they do it themselves, and we've seen this time and time again, something gets approved, you know, a few years later, the brand standards change, they alter the sign slightly without us noticing, all of a sudden the sign's like a few feet bigger and either, and you don't catch it until they come back before you, so.
Right.
I don't want them to just.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
They
so that could be something that we change when the permits are issued, moving forward.
We issue a permit, we issue a permit, we inspect it, we issue certificate of compliance, so that did not used to happen.
But no, I mean, we can give them the placard at that point. you know, if it was
Correct,
issued,
yeah.
if it was issued by us and they need to put it on there and maintain it on there. So moving forward, we
They
know,
just have to have money to buy these stickers, we talked about it at the,
They have machines that you can actually, it's like a label machine almost, and it's like 2 inches, the tape is 2 inches, and you can type in the permit number and then print out, and they can put that on the
but it
box.
becomes part of your fee for your permit.
Right,
I mean, there's no, it's not an outlay for
But
us,
this
if
thing
it's
goes
something
on
you're
the
required
sign?
to, it becomes a part of the fee of your
Well,
permit.
that's not sustainable,
if we're talking about getting numbers on all the signs that are legal.
forget it.
Not going backwards,
That's
let's,
a massive undertaking, and doing the research, and signs are already
This label is
not
not sustainable, this label is something that's gonna fade and blow up in 2 years, and what the hell, I don't get it. All right, well,
It's in the code, though, I get that point, it's in the code.
yeah, and
How
but,
do
you
you
know,
know
the
which
onus,
ones are
the
legal
onus
and
isn't
which
always
ones
on the town. So if
unfortunately, it's our
somebody's
law.
required to have a placard on their sign, they get a placard when they start. If that placard goes away, it's not the town's responsibility to make sure they maintain their placard. It's up to them to maintain their placard. And if they need to come back to the town to get a new one, then they do that. But at that point, let's say a year from now, if for the signs that don't have them, then that becomes an automatic violation, and then you can ticket them for that. The onus is not on the town for those things moving forward. But that's the responsibility of the person who's maintaining the sign and the business that's making the sign. It's some of their responsibility
I'll debate
as
the
a,
court on that,
as a
Counselor.
business
It's a lot
We'll talk about that
easier
later.
for each of
It'd be
them
my
to
problem.
take care of that than
Disagree.
for
I'll
our,
take the
for
defense
us
on
to
that.
it's
take
the
care
same
of
thing
all
as
of
if a gutter's hanging off the front of a building.
it's not the
Piece of crap label when it falls off, I'm not paying for another one. Better give me another one.
well, then you can pay the ticket. You'd be in trouble.
Good luck, I'll see you in court. See you in court there, Counselor.
All right, so I think we know, so you'll just, get some new language from the code.
Yep.
Once we have that, we'll put that through, and then we'll keep moving forward with the plan of the letter going out, and then hiring somebody part-time to come in and enforce.
And I would like to
Sounds
see
good.
a draft copy of the letter that's gonna go out, and I would like the board to consider doing it in sections of the town rather than the entire town at once.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
Start with the heavy areas.
All right, next we are
Downtown.
moving on to resolutions.
Already?
Yeah,
Come on, we're not done.
I know. All right, resolution 1, authorizing removal, what was that?
You don't want these guys to come up now before we get into this?
Okay, yeah, which resolution is that one?
The bamboo one. I don't know.
I don't know the number.
It's for the bamboo?
But it's to,
Oh, yeah,
and,
it's number 20, I believe.
okay.
Well, I remember looking at it when I went to try to
Thank
find
you,
the
I actually had it pulled
streetlight
out.
thing.
I know this was a big effort for you, this bamboo ordinance, so thank you.
This came out of code.
Eric
Yes,
and-
well, I requested that code discuss it,
Yeah,
and
me
then,
too, I went right through it after the last,
And
well,
Brad
And
and Bob
thank you,
put a good
Catherine,
amount
for
of-
actually moving it forward and putting it out, how's that?
So it's,
Actually,
it's
they
in
weren't
front of
gonna
you,
discuss it.
I guess the really the question is, whether you have any questions. What we're doing was, we borrowed a little bit of language from other, I'm not sure we used Oyster Bay's, cause theirs was a great deal more elaborate.
Huntington's was a good one.
We have incorporated some additional definitions that are gonna be added to the current chapter 251, which is entitled Noise, Public Nuisances, and Property Maintenance. So there's going to be a definition for bamboo, which is broken down into 2 subsets of running bamboo and clumping bamboo. Bamboo owner, and then we're going to then define through a new section 251.22 unlawful acts, which essentially allow somebody who has bamboo to keep it, provided it does not encroach or come within 10 feet of the edge of the pavement or travel portion of a public road. There is no penalties provisions put in this because the code that you're dealing with, chapter 251 already has penalty provisions in it.
Okay.
They're at 251.26, and those penalty provisions provide for first offense, a fine of between $250 to $1,000. A second offense, a fine between $1,000 and $3,000, and a third offense and more between $2,000 and $5,000. So the penalty clauses are there. There was no need to put in additional penalty clauses.
how does it work then with the liability for cost of removal and abatement? How is that,
We didn't get into that.
that may need to be getting, because if you
Well,
have
that
some.
was one of the reasons we chose not to, because we
Right.
felt that once we started entering into that fray, we're going to then be, required by property owners to go out and actually start doing abatement and entering onto their property, and I think we're a little bit leery of being, entering, from a town standpoint, going into private property and doing the work and then trying to, assess those costs against property owners.
So when you have liability for the cost of removal and or abatement, the property owner, his or her occupies land shall be liable for the direct or okay, so this would be like a neighbor to neighbor, they're.
The neighbors would still have their private cause of action if they decided to choose to bring in a trespass action or whatever.
And that's what this is,
Well, they still have that, that's out there, I mean, without this legislation, if I'm concerned that my neighbor's bamboo is somehow destroying my property, I have a private cause of action. This doesn't change the fact that somebody would have a private cause of action. I think what we decided or chose to do with the code revision is to not get into the point where we're undertaking the actual entry onto the property and doing the work.
I agree with that,
Yeah.
I agree with that, but I'm just not understanding then the liability for costs of removal and or abatement. What does that mean? The property owner or his, who's, I'm not sure who that refers to.
That refers to the property owner. The property owner, because it says right above it that the bamboo shall not encroach onto an adjoining property. So, then it
So-
says liability for the cost of removal and or abatement, the property owner or
So
his agent.
that just refers to one neighbor being able to say that the other property owner is liable?
Yes.
I believe, if I understand the question right, yes.
So that gives them the ability to do that?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Okay.
And the other question I have is for the clumping bamboo.
Mm-hmm.
That's just if it spreads, that's the rhizomes? Because there's a lot of clumping bamboo that's not invasive. I know, I'm good
As
now.
long as
Talking
it's
to
on
the
your
wrong person.
property, you're good.
Okay.
I mean,
The minute it starts encroaching on other people's properties and ripping up their irrigation lines and
because they
pushing
both,
up
they,
their
Permeating
concrete.
their foundation.
both definitions talk about sending off rhizomes.
Okay, so as long as the rhizomes stay on your property, you're good?
Yep.
That's what they're saying, okay. And then the other question I had is, if you have bamboo on your property,
Right.
and you've had it for, whatever, 20 years, right? And now it goes on to your neighbor's property, it's been there for 20 years,
On the neighbor's
on
property.
the neighbor's property. Does this give any what does this do
It's
for
not-
any,
it
it's just,
doesn't. It's still a violation.
The neighbor
It's-
can,
it's-
the
so
neighbor
it's
can
the-
tell you, get your bamboo off my property.
that's 'cause it's, the way one of this read, it seemed like there was a time kind of thing to it. Has initiated steps for removal of bamboo from the property, or, I'm just trying to see where it is.
Bamboo owner definition.
Yeah,
So the neighbor doesn't immediately become bamboo owner for having trespassed.
that's what
Yeah,
I'm
it-
wondering, so they
that
don't
was- that
become the
portion-
bamboo owner, that's what I was trying to figure.
That was exactly it.
Yeah,
It was a little
okay.
confusing when I read it, I was like, well, what does this mean? It's basically saying that if this property owner had planted the bamboo and this property owner now has the bamboo on their property,
now it goes to
they're
a-
not a bamboo owner.
And then when it goes to the
A
third property,
Yeah.
it's still the original property.
Correct.
Right, even if it transversed across your entire yard to the
Yep.
next
Right,
person's yard.
right.
Okay. And then my other question is bamboo that has
Is-
encroached to the curb,
Yes,
is that
that's a violation.
violation? Okay.
Yeah, cause it's gonna break up the curb and then the highway department's gonna have to go fix it.
I'm just curious if it's a violation, I wanted
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
thought on that.
10 feet. Anything within 10 feet of the roadway.
Right.
is a violation.
Is a
Edge of
violation.
pavement, travel portion of public road. Yep.
Okay,
Is that,
Can I ask, I think it's important legislation, because it's so invasive, but, within the town, I know a couple of areas in the town, but is this a constant complaint, or is this just heading off at the pass?
So we've had a few complaints.
I know the one I had.
We
in
have
Wayne
had
River.
a few complaints on it, and most towns seem to have,
Yeah.
most towns seem to have this in their code.
I know, that's
And
why,
a-
that's
and a
why
lot-
we did Marie
I think
last
we
month
were
to put
being
this forward,
proactive.
so.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
that had to be
When
represented.
when I requested that the
Over
code
time.
revision put this on for discussion, and then the code revision committee was discussing it, and I came in and they weren't going to take any action, And I said, no, you have to take an action, and that's when, thank you, Brad, for drafting this.
Yeah, I had a constituent actually give me all the way through Bay's law, I think I gave it to you, right, or somebody gave
We
it to
did
you.
look
right?
Yeah,
at-
we had
did
somebody
look at
come,
Oyster Bay.
somebody came in also.
Looked at a few towns, Bob and Brad did a lot of work looking at
Yeah,
other towns.
there's a number of towns, I had Oyster
It was
Bay.
Oyster Bay was giving me.
Oyster Bay was very, very detailed.
Yeah,
And then, one of the other issues, I think, because it is so invasive, over time, I mean, I notice it coming closer and closer to
Well,
the
you live out
roadway
there
and
in the
properties
sticks,
that do have it, so it's not only just if somebody has it, but it's, you know,
Mhm.
it's spreading.
Yeah, and it's not prohibiting anybody from planting bamboo if they want bamboo in their backyard, there's just a way to plant it. Like, you have to build basically a concrete slab with walls that come up, and then put the topsoil down and plant it within that area, so it doesn't evade onto other people's properties.
Oh, yeah, that's what I wanna do, yeah, it's so beautiful, such a beautiful plant.
Well, some people do it because it's a inexpensive way of buffering their properties from other properties. So if they want to, bamboo grows quickly and it's a very good buffer, so
Well,
that's why
I think a
people.
stockade fence will be a lot cheaper when they get done.
Yeah, when you have to dig the trench and put the
Yeah,
stainless steel in and everything else, it's,
This actually does prohibit.
$29 for an
I was going to,
complete,
I was going
Complete.
to say that it actually, if you do not have bamboo,
Don't get it.
subsection D of 25122 states, it shall be unlawful for any person or business entity to plant or replant running or clumping
right,
bamboo.
you have to, because there is a lot of bamboo that,
And if you
that
have it,
doesn't have the rhizomes.
It's gonna be unlawful to cause or allow the spread of existing running or clumping bamboo on neighboring properties. So you have it, you can't let it go onto the neighboring properties. If you don't have it,
Don't get it.
you can't do it.
Alright.
Cause in Oyster Bay you could, the code that I provided from
Yeah,
Oyster
they had-
Bay,
they had certain things that you could,
do
right.
it, Cause you're not really, I don't know that we wanna prohibit people from planting it if they want it, but.
It's just the clumping or the other one that produces the rhizomes. I believe that's what the code says, because there's non-invasive bamboo and there's invasive bamboo, and the non-invasive bamboo is not supposed to have, running rhizomes, and that's included with the clumping.
I didn't do the scientific
I,
research
just,
on the plants.
there's different, there's different
As I said,
kinds.
we borrowed from the other municipalities as to what they banned, and we
Yeah.
listed those, okay?
And
Put the teeth in with that.
Bob.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob and
Okay.
Brad.
Very good, thanks, guys.
All right, so now we'll head on to the resolutions.
Sounds like a plan.
Everybody up? Got your stuff?
Yep.
Authorizing removal of fixed assets records from the system. Second is Highway Department construction of capital project 45126, a budget adjustment. This is not too bad, being off by $250 to $55 on this, right? Next one, appoints temporary secretary to the Board of Assessment Review. This has been done, I guess, on a yearly basis, so that will be continuing. The next one is clarifies action and request leave.
Sorry about that. The packet that you have, the CDA resolution for resetting the public hearing for Q&A is actually in.
All right, let me switch my packet.
Yeah, that's what we have.
Okay, yep.
And that is a CDA resolution, John, or not?
No, I don't think it is, I don't think
It's
it
a
has
regular
to be, it's
town
just a
board?
notification
Okay, cause I think
of the
the
continuation.
first one was.
Yeah, I think it is I think it is because it's, the meeting is a CDA meeting,
We'll get, yeah, we'll
Right.
figure that out.
so I think it may have to come
Okay,
as a notice
let
from them.
it fall
Well,
under
so
the
whatever
thing.
the correction is, or the proper way to do it, then we will,
We'll get that.
we'll do that.
I
So-
think that we should consider doing this at the high school also with all the people that we had showing up, rather than doing it in town hall and having people stand around.
That was a question, so what is everybody's pleasure?
I think if the high school will avail itself to us to use their auditorium, that we should think about having the public hearing there.
I
Well,
agree with Jody, I think
yeah.
it would be respectful to people, it was uncomfortable for a lot of people.
Okay, we'll schedule it, the only thing with that is the question that we won't have live, coverage then, if everybody's okay with that.
My only thing is that I wonder if a lot of the public.
We won't have any
answers,
coverage,
now we're
will
gonna
we? We can still
the
film.
answer, and people will come back and have the answer.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Well,
I was wondering if they were gonna have the same amount, because of the fact that a lot of the public.
Yeah, the
did
public
speak.
spoke.
We closed the public speaking for questions, now they're
Now it's
answers,
just for
they
us.
might come back and give the answer.
You know what, that's the problem, it's hard to tell. You know, it's either, you know, we move to a bigger space and if not as many people come, you know, or we could have a lot of people come and not have enough space, so,
and we need to see if the
I
high
don't
school's
know if you'll
available.
have the
Yeah.
drag strip people here again, or the
Yeah.
union
Oh,
people
I'm
here
sure
again,
that
so.
they'll be here.
So, and everybody wants to hear your questions, Jim, so it's gonna be a lot,
Well,
big
I
audience.
appreciate that, and they talk to me all the time about that, but, all right.
And
I
let me,
don't-
let me just say, I was pleased with the town. I was
I think
pleased
we have a lot
that
of,
so many people turned out.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good thing.
I didn't get my gold star yet.
I'm gonna write
We'll
it
give
up.
that to you.
I'm gonna write you an
Well,
award.
you have a huge
You
senior
were
center.
extremely
It's
well
almost
behaved.
full.
So we will, if,
Why can't we just set it up at a town facility, like, I
What?
mean, we got the senior center, we can set up tables and chairs in the big room, I mean, it's, probably holds 300 people, 400 people.
the only difference
Not
is,
the auditorium.
well, the only thing is actually setting up all the chairs, as opposed to if you do the school, you have the chairs already set up, so there's no time in setting up the chairs, and I don't know if they have anything going on that night. We haven't booked any other place, so we can certainly,
All right, well,
ask
okay, I
there, and
really
I don't
don't
know how it works,
We can look
Yeah.
into it and see
Yeah.
if that's
Right, right.
available.
is the recording equipment, do we have that?
I
That we
believe,
can
I
bring
believe
there?
Larry did,
knows that.
Larry take the,
Swearing in.
swearing in,
Larry
so I
takes
think
the
he has the
swearing in.
equipment, and the school will have the equipment.
March 13th, I have fun there at 7, so I'll be here for an hour.
You know, just swearing in for yourself, Joey.
Right, and just for the school, it may have, it has the amplification for the microphone and all that other stuff,
So that shouldn't be a problem.
yeah.
And they record all the school board meetings there.
So I'll call them today and find out availability.
They don't do that anymore, they used to.
No, that stopped when Lori Downs stopped doing it.
My son used to do it.
So, let's see if the school is available, if the school is not available, we'll move, yes.
13th at 6 o'clock.
Right, so that's,
Is that a
is
school
that,
board
right?
meeting that night? Okay.
Now, we're up to what? Work session number 4?
But we could go to a different school, we don't have to
Right.
go to the high school. All right, so we will look for a venue, and then we will find out what's available, and then we can let everybody know.
Put it on the website.
I mean, we might even be able to do it at, Suffolk Community College also, right down here in downtown, because they have
The culinary center in
the
their back.
There's
culinary
seating
center
capacity.
in their back room, they can open it up, and it can hold a good,
And Laura, in order to advertise this in a timely fashion.
I know, it's gotta be done by the end of
Right.
today, yeah, I know. We have the call in already, so
I
we're
don't
just
think
waiting
you're
to.
gonna have as many people, I think you would be fine personally.
Okay, resolution 4, is that's what's calling for that thing.
A resolution authorizing town clerk to publish the attached notice of continuation of a public hearing on the Community Development Agency's designation of Calverton Aviation and Technology LLC, a joint venture to be formed by Illuminati Aerospace LLC and 555 Real Estate One LLC as a qualified and eligible sponsor for the purchase and development of approximately 1,643 acres located within the premise
She's still in here.
known as the as EPCAL, consistent with the goals and objectives of the planned development zoning district adopted on August 16th, 2016, the Town of Riverhead Comprehensive Master Plan, as amended on August 2nd, 2016, and the Town of Riverhead Calverton Enterprise Park Urban Renewal Plan, as amended on August 2nd, 2016.
Jody will read that one.
Yeah. Classifies actions and requests lead agency for Reeves Beach sanitary system upgrade.
Okay.
Joe, I just had a question on this. I know that we are getting, some funding for it, I think half funding and 15% is, from, in kind. Are there any other sources to fund the rest of this? No?
I was told when in hearing, asking me to help them with the application, that it was already in their budget. and
right, that's what we were told.
Just last week.
But I mean, even if it is in their budget, I mean, can we just take a look, see if there's anything else that can supplement it? Cause we could use that budget money for something
Okay.
else, because this is doing, there's a lot of Clean Water Act money out there, and this is one of the other upgraded systems, and it's by a beach in a sensitive area, so it may be possible. And then the one other question I have, which you may or may not have the answer when you were talking to them, is this one of the upgraded systems that,
Yes, it is upgraded.
so does it need the yearly inspections and the electrical? All right, I'll find out
It
from.
should, if it's one of the new ones under the Suffolk County Code.
Right, and then does it need electrical also to it?
It does,
Yeah.
it needs electrical, and then we are also gonna have to put up notifications that they can't put anything down the drain, like bleach and cleaning products and, other things that'll kill the bacteria, the microbes that are in there, that are actually treating the nitrogen.
All right, so we'll just check over with, Andrew, so, Okay, thank you very much. 6 is appoint a senior engineering aide.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Did we talked about this?
it's based on those
This
numbers.
is,
I mean, I understand why, and but I'm.
Oh, you know what, he was
I
pro-
remember hearing anything about this.
no,
and
he was,
it's still
he was provisional,
Right,
and he took the test,
right,
and then he passed the test, so it's the
Right.
same salary, but he's no longer provisional.
so we're hiring a new employee.
No, it's the same person who's been working, right, but he was hired as a provisional appointment because
Pending passing the test?
pending
Correct.
passing the
Okay.
test, and there's no increase in, no change in his current salary or
Right,
level
I
of
just-
benefits, so it's just,
I mean, I really have no issue, it's just that I'd like to know these things prior to read about them. you
yes,
know?
no, that's what that one is.
All right.
See, and then when we have the fiscal impact statement, that'll be attached to the back, so that'll answer all those questions. Appoint a maintenance mechanic 2 to the sewer district, this is, what we discussed, and this is just, somebody who had left and a replacement. Appoint a temporary student intern to the engineering department. Approves the final site plan application for Pecana Care Addiction Research and Rehab Center.
Boo, yay. Hold on,
Just hold on a second.
Yeah, I know. So we'll just ask, the new one, we'll ask that, we'll have that sent out to you with the amended, changes that we talked about before as far as the temporary, C of O. What else did we have on there? I don't have my note, I switched my packet. John, what else was on there? It was the change of the temporary CO and
No temporary CO, and then I think you wanted to see
the airport,
runway.
the runway covenants, okay. And then the next one is approves expenditure of funds, non-pro-tunc, to acknowledge efforts of Riverhead and regional NAACP recipients.
We've done this before?
This one, I don't know, we have done ads in other things before. This was we received the quest, this was, Rashad Richmond, he was a Riverhead resident.
I know we
Rashad Robinson.
Robinson, sorry, that was acknowledged.
So how much does this cost?
doesn't say.
I think it was $150.
So we took an ad already in that journal?
I think on behalf of the anti-bias task force.
Yeah, they had requested that we do it, and that was put out. But if you don't wanna pass that, I will pay for that myself, I don't mind.
Well,
It's
where are you taking it
non-pro-tunc,
from,
so it's
that's
already
all?
been- it's already been spent.
Well, yeah,
So, okay.
but I don't mind laying the money out for it if you're not comfortable with it.
But where are you getting it from, that's what I wanna know.
It's my
For this one, from the advertising line.
Okay, that's fine.
Oh, good.
Um,
But I
should
just
advertise
don't
something
want it
on
to
Red
be
Local.
precedent setting where, you know, we start getting everybody that has journals that are going out and we're
Agreed.
advertising in every single journal throughout the town.
Absolutely agreed.
He's a nice kid, not a kid, he's a man now, but I
Yeah.
remember him as a kid when he was in school, yeah.
Yeah,
I remember when he was a little kid.
as I said, it was,
Well, he's
you
still a
know,
little kid, but he's old.
from the anti-bias task force had requested it,
So, what did the journal ad look like?
Do you have a copy?
Yeah, I got it.
So we should ratify the expenditure of funds. Cause the funds have already been spent, right?
Well, this is non-pro-tunc, so it's paying now for that. This is what the.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right, I was just asking, that's all. We do the things I wanna know.
So that
And I
should
agree
be-
that in the future it should come before first.
Okay.
I think that was an oversight.
That's all right. I mean,
Authorize the supervisor to execute a license agreement with Eris Cultural Oyster Company to allow the installation of floating upweller systems
This
in
is something we do every year.
East Creek.
This is Karen Rivera, yeah, East Creek has the, seedlings that they do this free seed program for the clams.
Well, no, I think this is,
It's Karen Rivera. And there's a few of them, actually.
I don't think that this is not something that we budget for, I think they pay
No, they
us
pay us.
something,
They pay us.
but a minimal amount, they're just dedicated.
Right.
This is one of the ones for, I know that the state has the shellfish grant, I think it's a couple $1 million, I know, Cornell got a bunch of it, so we'll ask, the CDA if they can apply for some of that for us, for this type of activity.
Yeah, there's three different, fisheries, they got Eros, and I think you're gonna see another one come for another one. There's like three people that use the flub seeds that they put in the corner of East Creek.
that they grow and harvest these seeds, and then when they get a certain size, they repopulate the bay.
That's what I was wondering,
And
how,
they pay us,
like $50 or something, it's not,
That's a month.
yeah.
right, yeah, it's a few $100s a season just to use that corner.
But my question is, how we get their recommendations from the Peconic Estuary Management? How do they decide who goes in there?
Well, no, we've been pretty much, well, they approached the town years ago, a lot of these people have been there for years, and
Right.
this is nothing new, and we've only take a few, so, these are companies that have been working with the town for a decade, so they just keep reapplying.
Okay, but I mean, is it opened up to let people know that this is an available thing that they can do in the town, and then the
There's
people are chosen?
there's only a few companies that do it, and actually, we had another one that went out of business, that's not doing it this year, so it's more of a labor of love for these people, so, I don't think there's a lot of competition.
There's nobody in line knocking on the door
That's what I'm
to
just
get to
wondering,
this.
is it something that needs to be opened
No.
up so people
No,
know to
'cause
apply,
I know
or is
East
it?
End does us, I think they have enough Weller and Southhold as well. you know,
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
they pretty much, you know.
Okay,
I mean,
that's
anybody
fine.
that wants to do it is more than welcome to
Yeah,
do it,
that's
the
right,
more
good
the
luck.
better.
That's kind of
If
what
it
I'm
wants to
hoping,
build it up well and
it's
pay me
open
to put it in
to,
the
it's open
creek, that's
to
great.
anybody who's interested in doing that?
Mhm.
Okay. Authorize a service agreement, non-pro-tunc with, Waste Inc. for Town Riverhead Calverton, Sewer District. Alright.
Wait, what is this?
This is a kind of, John, we wanted to find out information about this, do you know, because this looks like two firms,
Yeah, so this was, I believe,
I don't know if it was bid out, was an RFP, I was not sure.
yeah, it says, I mean, the third whereas says the superintendent of the sewer district located two firms. I'm getting firm with him that was, you know, RFP or something of that sort, but there were two firms who applied, but then one actually backed out, so we are giving it to Waste Inc.
Yeah,
And this is
from what,
related to daily management and maintenance of testing and permitting, that they always do in Riverhead Sewer District.
Let's say, I think it's
Well,
a
waste-
requirement
waste,
to the
right.
DEC.
well,
Right.
Infomark stepped out, but Waste, okay.
It is, the question just was how was it put out to get the firms?
Oh, I see.
Okay.
So we'll clarify that. I didn't know if it had to be a bid or what it was. The next one is approves chapter 255 application of PC Richards and Sons for a barbecue tent sale, the 23rd through the 29th. Next one is authorize the supervisor to execute license agreement with, New York State's Parks for the 2009 Parker boat. What is that,
Whole identification number.
Okay, PXM 65060, that's when I need my glasses, D909 for police department use. That is one, and the next, resolution is for, and also for a boat, and this is a 217, this is authorize the supervisor to execute license agreement with New York State Parks for a 2017 Brunswick boat with the, numbers, WCG 00013B717 for police department use. These are two boats that that the police department uses. We don't pay for them, they come from the New York State Department of Parks and Recreation. But we have to, they sort of lend them to us without payment, and we provide the insurance on them.
Is this the pump out house?
This
No.
is not, this is the Bay Constable
The
boat.
Bay Constable boat?
One sits in East Creek, I'm
don't
gonna
buy-
say
we
the
don't buy the Bay
2000,
Constable?
what?
I didn't realize that they were on loan for us, we only paid insurance, I thought we bought them.
This is,
No,
yeah,
it was a grant,
The pump outs we
it was
do.
a grant
Pump
through
out.
the parks, or not a grant.
it's
it
a
is
loan,
it is
it's like
right.
a loan,
They
they loan it to us.
provided the boat
The
for
portion,
us.
it was the whole.
No, that's the pump out boat that we got a grant for, that they,
That's
was
the
like,
secret, yeah.
yeah, this is separate, this is two boats that they basically lease to us for nothing.
Bless you.
Thank you.
We use, but we carry the insurance on it. So it's just authorizing the agreement for them, for us to use the boat from them.
Excellent.
So one sits in East Creek, and I guess the other one, they can use depending where they
Yeah,
need it, whether it's a
trailer,
sand
trailer.
or whatever, yeah. The one thing I did ask the chief is right now we do not have a protocol. I know the Bay Constable does one, but we don't have a protocol in place about who can drive the other boat, whether we're requiring them to have a boater's, license or some sort of hours, having driven a boat or some sort of, so I asked the chief just to write something up so that we can review that. I mean, obviously, in times of a life or death situation or emergency, we would exempt that, but on a general basis.
They're all, yeah, all those guys are
Also
divers
scuba
and,
team,
Right.
all boaters.
and
yeah.
boat owners, so I'm sure they have.
Yeah, so I'd just like to clarify that, especially if we're insuring them.
Yep.
Authorize the retention of Kimberly Horn of New York PC as an expert in the matter of Traditional Links LLC versus Riverhead Town Assessors. This was a particular person that was at VHB, who was serving as an expert witness, has moved to another firm, and it is just the ability to continue with them in the one particular case, through the other firm.
And we'll still have the same representative, David Schiff, from that firm that will be working on this?
David Schiff left the firm and has now gone to, Kimberly Horn.
Right,
And
I would
yes.
just like it to say in here that he will
Wanna
still be
include that
the
it's still
attorney of record, or the representative of record, cause I don't wanna start with somebody new at Kimberly Horn. If David Schiff should work there for a week and then decide that he doesn't like it there anymore and then go somewhere else, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then somebody new is starting up and having to read through this file that's as long as this table.
Yep, we can switch that.
That David Schiff will be the representative from Kimberly
Yep.
Horn. Great,
And
thank you.
it will end the agreement if he is gone.
Right.
Gives the town attorney the authorization for settlement of claims made against the town of Riverhead. This is for the PMA, which is our outside, agency that we use to settle and to
Settle claims. and-
yeah, settle claims, review our
Right.
claims, decide what to do.
Your claim.
So what we did was we put in a maximum that they could settle the claims for, which is $3,500, without, prior approval. And then that would be individually, and we did that based on what the previous claims have been over the past couple of years. And then up to 15,000 as an aggregate for each fiscal year, so they'll have to come back if they pass that.
Okay.
Authorize town clerk to publish and post notice to consider a local law to amend chapter 301 entitled zoning and land development of the Riverhead Town Code. And this is the lighting. So we will ask Jeff to give us a clean copy of this, just to make sure that everybody reads okay on that.
Yeah, but we're gonna leave the marked up version in the packet.
Yes, the markup
Okay.
version will say, it'll just be an addendum to what's
Good.
there. Authorize the retention,
That's
oh,
a duplicate.
This actually has the attachment of
all right, so we'll just
Okay, so we'll
switch that
take
attachment over.
first.
letter from Kimmy Horn herself.
That's where it indicates that Chip will be the guy doing the job.
In the contract as well. But we can put it in the resolution, just to.
Is this where it's gonna be?
Leave that, we'll leave that up to Diane.
Yeah, we'll fix it all up.
Authorizes town clerk to publish and post notice to consider a local law to amend chapter 251 entitled Noise, Public Nuisance, and Property Maintenance of the Riverhead Town Code.
Baboon, bamboo.
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 Authorize town clerk to publish and post a public notice to consider a local law to amend chapter 301 entitled zoning. Oh, this is a repeat also. Wow.
Yeah, no wonder you had to redo it today, cause you put a lot of
Boy,
extra.
we are just gonna sail through these resolutions.
We hope,
Yeah, I know.
sometime.
That's to see how, the last minute, but I needed to put that in.
Yeah.
Approves chapter 255 application of Riverhead Central School District, the 5K run entitled R2R Run to Remember, Sunday, May 20th in 2018. Appoints member to the Parking District Advisory Committee. This was to add Brian DeLuca to the Parking Committee. And the next resolution is to reappoint several of the members that are currently on there, which is Timothy Griffin, John Peregrine, how do you spell it?
Peregrine.
Peregrine, and Ed Tucci.
Who?
Not paying any attention to anything. Reappoints member to the Town of Riverhead Wildlife Management Advisory.
I don't have those on mine, but.
This one I hadn't seen, this one.
Diane was handing that out.
Okay,
Oh.
so this is, so what's been happening as the committees meet and they've gotten the, yeah, and the resumes that have been coming in, they go out to the committees, and then the committees are, as they're meeting, are coming in and
Just
putting in
all,
their
they're all in one?
It's just one resolution.
the new members.
Okay, yeah,
on
these are
there.
just people on the
Um,
Bambi Slayers.
And then the one other thing that we had discussed that I don't have on here is that we had discussed, last week about
Here.
doing maybe, oh, is this another one? No, this
That's the same one.
doing, I was thinking about it, I think it would be an RFI about the recreation area over in Calverton. So, rec committee, your rec,
Yes.
committee, so do you want to, when do you guys meet again?
Well, they canceled the last meeting, so I.
Is that what I read in the paper about the going to RFI or RF?
That was
for-
just a
for
discussion on,
recreation?
that was just a discussion.
Cause I had some interest in it from,
Really, the discussion that we had last time is what was the pleasure of the board? If it's something that we even wanna.
public-private up at,
Right, something that we even wanna explore.
well, I know there's interest out there already internationally as well, that came in
So,
yesterday, so.
so I think what we need to do is present it to the rec committee, and Ray Coyne is at the rec committee also.
And I will say the rec committee discussed
Who's
something like
drafting,
this
who's
at the last
drafting the
meeting.
RFI or
So
RFQ?
I know they're
RFP.
interested.
It's an urban renewal zone, so we'll have that come through the,
CDA?
CDA.
Okay.
And then if everybody's okay with that, then we can move forward to put that out. So, but we'll have everybody review it before we do anything, obviously, and as we go along, we'll give you drafts.
And the only other question I have is, well, there are some other fillings of vacancies, but I noticed that there's still people coming in, so we haven't really settled on some of the other ones.
That's okay, you know, I
Because we're
mean,
still looking at resumes that are coming in. Where are we with the telecom at this point?
well, the last time that we met, we're not at that 30-day mark, because the last time that, Total Tech came,
They just
What-
wanted to give it 30 days,
we
see if
wanted
they're
to give them
fixed
the
with working.
right, and so, and we've emailed out to everybody, and we've reported off at the department heads, that if, and you guys should have received the email also, from IT, that if you're having lag time, that we need it reported right away, and the departments have been doing that now, so we're really trying to get an accurate picture of what happens over these 30 days.
My only concern is this, that I understand that what Total's doing is they're trying to fix the data part, the guts of the system. The telecom is a separate issue altogether, and I'm just worried that, well, we're gonna lose funding opportunity, that's all. We're gonna lose some immediate savings in parts. I spoke with the company last week, and I said, look, we're still at a Total, for some reason, wants to wait. I equate it to wanting to get solar panels on your house, but you wanna make sure your roof can do it. You know, that's what we're doing, so we'll make sure our roof is good in order to put the solar panel on, which is telecom on top of our system. I get it. They're gonna need 60 to 90 days to do their own assessment anyway, before they do anything. So, that 30 days is really Total's number.
Right, but do, you
And I
know,
don't wanna lose, I just don't wanna lose that, I mean, it's only like 9,000, I realize it's only, but
I hear what
And
you're saying,
equipment.
but the Total Tech has said they put in a fix for our system at this point, when they came here last.
yeah, they
last
found
week,
a
and-
shortage in one of the relays or something. Yeah.
And from what I'm hearing, people are still having a lot of lag time, so whatever fix they had didn't fix it. So to add another system to it is going to increase the lag time even more. So at this point right now, I don't, you know, from our internal system, from our consultants that we have now, it may be that we cannot handle that system. So that is, you know, we can't handle what we have on there
We can't
now.
make that decision, and neither can Total.
Well, Total is telling us we can't handle what we have now, right? We can't handle what we have now, so
I
adding one
understand
more
that,
thing
and the only reason
to the thing we
I'm
can't
saying
handle
this is
now.
because this is, I went so far out of the way to get somebody so independent and so not ingrained to come out and do an independent study of our system, which even telecom, with the voice over IP, just for the phone system, which is 2% of the system or 1% of our system, is gonna do their own assessment anyway, despite what Total does. I don't care what Total does, they're gonna come in and do their own independent assessment of our system to see if it will work or not.
Right, but
And if
the
it can't work,
system, the
it can't do
system is ours, and the people that we've hired at this point to evaluate our system and to run our system, and to make sure our system is working, they are telling us that they don't know whether it can handle it yet, so, these are our consultants that, you know.
I know,
So
it's
if our
all
consul- if
reported
our
what they said, they
consultants
said
are-
it was,
If our consultants
Minor.
are saying to us, we don't, you know, what we would be doing is saying to our consultants, we're not going with your advice at this point, and we're choosing to add another
No, I
system.
don't want you to tell them that.
But
That's
that's
not
what,
I'm saying.
but in essence, that's, what they've
I
asked
asked
for
them
the 30
straight out at the
days.
meeting last week, or 2 weeks ago, whenever they were, 2 weeks, so we're already halfway through. So I'll put it on for the next night meeting, which will be 30 days. They said, I said, well, we're talking about voice over IP, we're not talking about data. And I said, you know voice over, and he was right, he said, you're right, it's so minor compared to what.
But
we're
it's still, it still sits on the same system. It's not devoid of the system. It still sits on the same system, and the people that we've hired as our consultants have told us to, you know, we put a fix in, we think it's gonna be able to fix it and be able to then add the phone system to it. But what we're seeing from the departments is it hasn't fixed the system, and they're getting a lot of tickets in that the lag is still occurring. So you know, it would be great if we had no lag at this point. I would say, you know, at that point, I'd say
Well,
we're
I'll wait-
really heading in the right direction.
wait till the next
But I
meeting.
don't know that we're heading in the right direction, because we're still having so lag, and that's what they need to come back and tell us. I mean, I could ask them to send us an update at this
No,
point.
I'll wait
what,
2
a week
weeks.
and a half, 2
By the
weeks?
way, I understand what you're
I'm
saying,
just
but
worried.
didn't you have lag today? Weren't you having lag?
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with it.
But yes, it does, Jim,
Well,
it
you know
runs
what?
on the same
The-
system.
Well, you can say that being a nurse, and I can say that being a retired police officer. The experts in the field are saying that it doesn't.
But our.
Including Total.
No, Total said that it might
Well,
potentially.
I talked to them independently after this, and they.
Okay, all right.
It doesn't matter, I
It
mean.
doesn't matter, we'll get their evaluation at the end of the 30 days, and we'll see
I'm
where
just
we're at.
looking, I'm looking at expenditures coming up, I'm looking at moving the town forward. Believe me, I'm not married to anybody, but the fact is that, you know, we're looking at 10,000 in savings in equipment, all based on times, there's had 6 extensions already, and we're looking at close to $60,000 to $70,000 in savings in phone bills, for what we're currently paying now, and
I don't
that's all gonna
disagree
go
with you.
towards sign guys, and Geo's money, and all this other stuff that we wanna do, and that's all.
Jim, I totally agree with you, I totally agree with you, but to, you know, as I said, to
I
put
know, we wanna
something
make
on.
sure the roof's good before we put the panels on, I get it,
Exactly, because there's
I get
nothing
it.
like putting solar
That's
panels
why I
out there
use
and
that
having it come down in
analogy,
your living
I
room.
realize we're looking at the
Well,
roof to make sure.
Total knows we're trying to move things along.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah, and I'll give them a call and
I just don't want.
and just see if they, you know, if they have any input at this point from the information they're receiving. All right, I'll get an update.
I get it, okay, thank you.
So now we'll close the work session, and can have a first and second to go in executive session, personnel to discuss, regarding the appeal of a steady tour assignment, and proposed litigation regarding, certificate of compliance, and pending litigation in the matter of Town Hall versus Plaza Auto, and an ongoing investigation of signage.
Ooh, signage, let's go, I move it.
I move that we close the work session
Catherine
and go
moved it.
into executive.
I second it.
All in favor, aye?
Aye?
Aye.
All right.
The summer wind came blowing in.